Welcome to the May 28, 2024 City Council meeting. Please stand for the invocation by Councilmember Wilder, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day. We thank you for the Lynchburg City Council. We thank you for the work we're doing for our community. Give us guidance and strength and wisdom as we lead the city, as we lead the organization. Bless our staff member, bless our citizens, bless our students and our kids in our classroom, and just give them strength during the summertime. Let them be safe, let them be encouraged, and let them just continue to learn during the summertime, during the time off. Bless our parents and all those who are guardians of our children. They will lead them in the right way. We continue to bless you. We need to praise you. We can give you all the honor and the glory. And we speak peace all over the world, not just in Lynchburg, but all over the world. We speak peace and love. In your precious name we pray. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, so tonight we are recognizing our 19th Citizens Academy graduation. So I would like to invite Anna Benson up to the podium to introduce the cohort, and I will come down and help do the recognitions.
Thank you. Madam Mayor, Vice Mayor, and members of City Council. Tonight we are recognizing the graduates of the 19th Annual Citizens Academy. To date, 412 citizens have participated in this program. For the past 12 weeks, this year's cohort of engaged citizens has learned firsthand about the wide range of local government services. They took in the view from the top of the water tower, they climbed a ladder truck, tried out a few public works vehicles, experienced the Emergency Communications Center, all in all meeting with 29 departments and offices across the organization. I want to recognize the Communications and Public Engagement staff, Jan Ramsey, Shauna Kidd, Beth Sneed, and Lenora Noel, who have excellently stewarded the group this spring. I am pleased to welcome the class's spokesperson, Ms. Susan Murray, who will offer brief remarks. Then each participant will be presented a certificate. Thank you.
Hello. On behalf of the 2024 class of the Lynchburg Citizens Academy, I bring greetings to you, the Lynchburg City Council. We thank you for investing your time and work into the city, and we thank you for investing in us through making this course available. It has been a wonderful and very interesting 12 weeks. It has answered a lot of questions and given us a lot to think about, and I dare say to change the way we look at and think about some of the things we have learned. And Lynchburg is a very giving city. The thing that struck us most to a person is that everyone who makes the city and its services run and succeed are so dedicated to and passionate about their job. They are remarkable and inspiring people, and we are very blessed to have them working for us. Every department impressed us with superlatives. I wish I could talk about each of them, but here are only 4 examples. The compassion for people and the number of and depth of programs Human Services skillfully operates is astounding. Seeing how zealous they are at the Commissioner of the Revenue's office to collect taxes to fund things for the citizens of Lynchburg turned my mind completely around about paying those small taxes. Our ambitious fire chief has strengthened our ISO rating to the top 1.5% of fire departments in the country, giving us low fire insurance rates. They pride themselves in getting to any house in the city within 6 minutes. The very enthusiastic Parks and Rec staff hosts over 8,700 events each year, serving over 90,000 citizens, and they are attracting international events to come to our city. What will we take away from this experience? I feel we built a sense of community with our classmates, and I feel we all want to share what we learned with the larger Lynchburg community, as well as use the tools we were given to stay more involved and knowledgeable about what is happening in the city. Personally, I am going to spend the next 12 Thursday nights posting about what we learned in the Academy, so stay tuned on Facebook and you might learn something that you didn't know about Facebook of Lynchburg too. And finally, we want to give thanks to Jan and everyone else who spent their time and effort to teach us about and share with us their part of the city. I know that we will never forget this. Thank you, Jan.
Thank you very much. Well, thank you all. Thank you very much. It was an honor. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Okay, thank you so much. This is so exciting. So our first graduate is Lynn Campbell. Okay, next, Christina Crawford. Jack Evans. Judith Farah. Roman Franklin. Betty Gibbs. Stella Hall. Toby Johnson. Ruth McGee. Jennifer Moore. Robert Moore. Susan Murray. Greg Roby. Randy Smith. Melinda Tennis. Dana Beasley. Janae Wagner. Roz Webb. Devontae Wood. And Nathan Wyand. Oh, not here and also probably mess his name up, but congratulations, Nathan. Can I jump in? Yeah. I did it right. Yay! Okay. Oh, sorry.
I have to do a panoramic.
I am.
Yeah.
All right. I got it.
Okay. That was fun. All right. Tonight, our city council agenda is divided into 4 sections: consent agenda, public hearing, public comment, and general business. The first section, yes.
We
move on to the first part of the agenda. It's my understanding city staff would like to have the curfew ordinance, or the curfew extension that was discussed during the business item briefing today. I've taken the liberty of putting copies of the extension on your respective chairs on the dais. If there's no objection and there's consensus, I do know that's because of the expiration coming up on June 1st before our next meeting, staff would like City Council to take that up if it'd be willing to.
Okay? Yes, Councilman
I
Wilson?
object. I mean, it was, we had an afternoon session talking about it, wasn't on the agenda. Sometimes when the agenda is posted, citizens like to see what's on the agenda. They like to see and comment on the agenda. This ordinance wasn't on the agenda until just now, so I don't, I wouldn't, I object.
I also object.
Okay, so we have two people who do not want it added to general business. Dr. Wilder?
Were there any changes from the prior item?
No, so what you had in your work session packet for the extension is the same agenda that I copied as really as a convenience to put on your desk, so you all have it.
And the same one we previously passed?
Yes, it's the same one you passed, it's just different extension
Okay,
dates.
thank you, I appreciate it, yes.
And we all knew it had a sunset of June 1, this Saturday. Thank you.
I would need a motion to put it on the agenda for general business.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, any further discussion or any comments? Or
No comments?
No. Okay, so would it be appropriate to call a vote, or can I just?
Yes, you could probably
consensus?
do it by voice vote, just to add it to the top of general business.
Okay, we'll go ahead and
Hold
call
on. Where are we talking about adding this to the top of general business?
top of general business.
So that would be at the beginning? Or
Yes,
at the end?
the beginning.
I would prefer that we move to the end.
Well, you
Because the
just said you-
citizens are here to hear about the issues that were on the agenda. We shouldn't put something else that might take a lot of discussion up in front of what they're here for. But just my,
Does anybody have an objection to putting it at the top or the bottom of the
I don't have any strong feeling.
general business?
The ending would be preference.
Okay, let's go ahead and vote.
Councilmember Dolan?
Yes.
Councilmember Huddleston?
No.
Councilmember Mischins?
no.
Councilmember Taylor?
Yes.
Councilmember Wilder?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Feraldi?
Yes.
Mayor Reed?
Yes.
The motion passes.
Okay, so we'll add this to the bottom of general business. Okay. The first section is the consent agenda. This section includes routine items, and all items may be approved by one vote. May I have a motion on the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, can we go ahead and vote?
Councilmember Dolan?
Yes.
Councilmember Huddleston?
Yes.
Councilmember Mischins?
No.
Councilmember Taylor?
Yes.
Councilmember Wilder?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Feraldi?
Yes.
Mayor Reed?
Yes.
The motion passes.
Okay. Next section is public hearings. This section includes all public hearings as required by law or as council may direct. Staff will make a presentation. Comments will then be solicited from the public. An individual speaker shall have 3 minutes to speak. If the speaker represents a group, the speaker shall have 5 minutes. A speaker representing a group shall identify that group at the beginning of his or her remarks, and a group may only have one spokesperson. Each speaker shall clearly state his or her name and locality of residence. Upon the conclusion of public comments, the public hearing will be closed and the matter referred to for council for deliberation. Consideration of adopting a resolution approving the siting agreement between the City of Lynchburg and James Energy LLC, DBA East Point Energy at 3920 Harbor Street and 109 Old Trents Ferry Road. Staff will provide a brief summary of the request. Mr. Tom Martin.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of council. Council received a business item briefing on this petition and the next petition on May the 14th. Just a brief reminder, the Code of Virginia allows for localities and energy storage facilities to enter into siting agreements, negotiate those. The first site is located at 3920 Harbor Street and Old Trents Ferry Road. City Council did approve a conditional use permit to allow this facility back in April of 2023. Under this siting agreement, there would be a total of $55,000 one-time payments made to the city, and the payments are based on key milestones of when the project moves forward. $30,000 of that would be for special fire equipment, and that would be done at the commencement of construction. In addition to these payments, they would also provide specialized training to our Lynchburg Fire Department to deal with any type of issue that might happen at the facility. And also a reminder, these one-time payments are separate from, in addition to, any revenue sharing or other real estate taxes.
Okay, great, thank you so much. Would the petitioner like to make a presentation? No one's here to make a presentation? He's hidden. Oh, there you are.
Thank you, councilors, for considering this. I'm here and able to respond to questions you might have later, but I will yield the floor to anybody else who has an observation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We'll call you back up if we have any questions. Is there anyone here who would like to speak in favor of this project? Anyone here who would like to speak in opposition? Any voicemails from citizens?
There are none.
Okay. The public hearing is now closed and the matter rests with council. May I have a motion?
So move.
Okay, do I have a second? Okay, Councilman Taylor?
I think it's a good opportunity to do revenue sharing. The city is never short of money, but we can always have extra money, and this would help us. And question for you, I visit a storage facility out in California, San Diego, and the only question I had for them was what happens when all the batteries decide to heat up at one time?
Right, sir. So I cannot tell you, sir, how exactly large that facility is. I'm assuming it is bigger than this one, sir? Okay. The batteries are kept in separate enclosures. I don't know if you remember the presentation we gave before, and so they are separated. Within that enclosure, if the batteries do start to heat up, we have various mitigation measures that one can basically tell them to stop power and start to discharge that power out of that, which starts to reduce the amount of pressure, you might say, or potential heat that's happening. If by chance that doesn't work, and again, basically they somehow do catch fire and can start to combust, there are vents that release that gas to ensure that there is no large explosion and there's no potential impact to neighbors or anything like that. The fire then would basically happen in the enclosure, which is a fireproof structure. And that would just be contained to that enclosure. And the guidance now, basically, the fire departments is to show up, protect the surrounding perimeters with your water, but don't try to flood that battery or anything like that. Let it burn, and it's very similar to basically a house fire. And we call it basically failing safely. And so that's what's happened, I think, in the case in the San Diego fire also, sir. So there's no basically loss of human life, no injuries to them. The only thing that is a loss is that battery enclosure and those batteries. Did I answer your question, sir?
Yes, thank you.
Any other questions or comments?
No, I just seconded because there's really no downside for the city. And the revenue sharing is great, and we're still able to taxation, so.
Great.
No risk.
Okay, let's go ahead and vote.
Councilmember Dolan?
Yes.
Councilmember Helgeson?
Yes.
Councilmember Mischins?
Yes.
Councilmember Taylor?
Yes.
Councilmember Wilder?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Feraldi?
Yes.
Mayor Reed?
Yes.
The motion passes.
Okay, I'm going to do something a little out of order here because I'm a little old-fashioned this way. We have a packed room, and I see quite a few ladies and older people standing. So if you are able-bodied and younger and a gentleman, I would like to ask you to stand up and make space. Or scooch in. Scooch in and make space.
Seat up here, they can.
Thank you.
Young, able-bodied,
If you, but if you can't stand for long periods, please stay seated. Yeah. Yeah, you can scooch up and. Okay. All right, while you're finding your seats, I'm going to go ahead and move forward. But thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Consideration of adopting a resolution approving a siting agreement between the City of Lynchburg and Quarry Engineering Center LLC, DBA East Point Energy at 2904 Carrol Avenue. Staff will provide a brief summary of the request. Mr. Tom Martin.
Madam Mayor, members of council, this is very similar to the previous siting agreement council just approved. It's just for a different site located on Carrol Avenue. This property is zoned industrial, which means that the energy storage facility would be permitted by right. Staff, along with the city attorney, economic development, did negotiate a siting agreement for this property also. This one is a total of $65,000 in one-time payments, again, separate from, in addition to any revenue share or real estate taxes.
I'm sorry. We just can't have anybody blocking the exit just for safety purposes. Sorry. Sorry I'm giving you so many instructions, y'all, but we want everybody to be safe. Thank you. Okay, go ahead, Tom. Go ahead.
You want me to say it again?
Yeah, just your last sentence, yes.
Okay, so Carrol Avenue, $65,000, which was negotiated. It's a one-time payment separate from and in addition to any revenue sharing or real estate taxes.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Great, thank you. Would the petitioner like to make a presentation? No. No? Okay. Is there anyone who would like to speak in favor? Anyone who wants to speak in opposition? Any, oh, yes? Can you come to the podium, please? Are you speaking in favor or opposition?
Opposition.
Okay. Please come to the podium and say your name and locality, please.
My name's Frederick Burton,
Okay.
Senior.
Okay.
And I own property at 2700 Clover Place and 2704 Clover Place. And this battery station that's proposed to go up, I see a lot of danger. I see a lot of risk. And I got tenants living over other families that I grew up with. And all of us are very frightened what could happen if those batteries explode. I know what they said. I know they got air conditioning in the cabinets to take care of any vapors or anything like that. But let's say it did escape the contents of the containers. What's the risk? It's going to happen to the people that live in that area. Is the fire department going to be able to contain it? I don't know. Okay, that's what I'm trying to find out. So I don't know who's supposed to be representing this Quarry Energy Company.
He will speak to your concerns once you have a seat, sir. Thank you. Thank you very much. Is there anyone here else here who has an opposition? Wants to speak in opposition? Okay, well, I think now you can come up and you have 5 minutes to speak to your rebuttal.
Thank you, councilors. We did do outreach to all the neighbors. I'd just like to everybody know that, I assume, sir, hopefully you received a letter in addition and you've seen the sign posted. Exactly. So we did receive a couple phone calls back from some concerned individuals. I don't think, unfortunately, sir, I spoke with you, but to address questions and provide information. Sorry, I don't have on exactly where this gentleman's houses are related to our project, but our project, the new one is, again, industrial zone site that is by right and behind the existing substation. So we were, I think, at least hundreds of feet away from the majority of the houses that are there, if I have my numbers correctly. Again, similar, if there was an issue, my response would be to Councilor Taylor's response, and again, so these are designed to fail safe. And there's no, I think, very significant risk to any neighbors from their personal or property or human health. So I will stop there and can answer specific questions. I think we're supposed to be discussing the siding agreement also, though.
Okay.
And so, thank you.
If you would stay there for 1 second, there weren't any voicemails from anybody?
There were none.
Okay, sorry, I skipped that part. Okay, well, then the public hearing is now closed and the matter rests with council. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, would you like to speak to that, Councilman Dolan?
This is the same as the one we just previously approved for the same reasons.
Okay. No further discussion? Anyone else want to speak to it? Councilman Hongison?
I just would like to ask if our fire chief is here. Maybe, can somebody, so the,
Standing back here, so what was the concern?
so the concern the neighbor had mentioned with regarding safety, with regarding fire suppression, with regarding the safety of, how big this one is here.
And I'm going to deal to you on how, but what's great, and I commend Matthew and Kent and Tom, who, and kind of working through this, you'll see recessed into both agreements are provisions to help with equipment and/or training associated with a potential fire at either of the two locations.
So, as you say, there is very low probability that an actual enclosure catches on fire in cells. Again, we have multiple different mitigation requirements from they get tested, the battery cells, before they get sent over out of the factory, when they get put into the enclosures, and then before the whole actually system gets connected to the grid, it is tested and basically approved by the utility company to be connected, okay? Before we can get our site plan, and part of this siting agreement is that our company will submit an emergency response plan in case of worst case scenarios on how these will fail safe. And that emergency response plan will be then trained, the Lynchburg Fire Department will have been trained on that emergency response plan, okay? So in case, worst case scenarios, anything would happen, again, an enclosure catches on fire, the Lynchburg Fire Department will have a specific plan in place that they've been trained on how to respond and ensure not only themselves are safe, but also any neighboring properties, okay? We did meet, real quick, at the site with the fire department already and discussed the project and did not hear any significant feedback from them other than the standards that we would have to meet anyways for site design around proper driveways, access for them to get around the site, et cetera.
So tonight, you're asking for approval, but then tomorrow, you're going to meet with the fire chief on a plan for emergency?
We already met with them. What we don't have specifically yet is where exactly, what type of equipment necessarily, the dimensions quite yet, and where will be placed, okay? That all has to go through the city's design site plan process. Once that's finalized, then that's when we create, and part of that process is creating the emergency response plan, okay? Which is site-specific to Quarry Energy Center at that address. Okay, this is a different emergency response plan than the one that we will be creating and training the fire department on over on Harbor Street, if that makes sense.
Maybe Mr. Martin can address it.
Madam Mayor, I might be able to help with this as well. Under Article 3 of the siting agreement, number 1, it speaks to emergency resources. It says the applicant, who would be East Point, the petitioner, will pay directly for any specialized training the city and the applicant mutually determine is necessary to prepare for responding to a fire or similar event at the project. Is to be provided by a fire safety expert and included a minimum an emergency response plan and an emergency response training. And I think after, assuming this council approves this agreement and the resolution, what Mr. Meyer was referring to is that there'll be additional approvals and processes they have to go through with community development regarding this very issue.
So, Mr. Martin, I recognize words in an agreement, but words in an agreement don't put out a fire when it's right next to your house. So maybe you can address the question that the gentleman had, which is a valid question.
So, absolutely. I think the interesting thing about this property is the entire area is zoned industrial. And I believe the properties where his rental units are also zoned industrial. There's a lot of things that go on in industrial sites that we don't all know about because they're permitted by right. What is special about this is if you go back and you look at what the General Assembly was trying to do with these siting agreements, is they're really trying to provide carrots to localities to accept them, to approve them. In this instance, this property is already zoned appropriately for it. So if council denied this siting agreement tonight, what would happen? One, we wouldn't get any one-time payments out of it. Two, the petitioner would come back and ask for what's called a 2232 review, asking for city council to determine whether or not this use in the industrial zone is in compliance with the city's comprehensive plan. It would be very difficult for us to say, no, it's not in compliance with our comprehensive plan since it's a use permitted by right. They could go that route. They could have went that route anyway, but they chose not to. If that's what council decides to do, then there is no specialized training that goes along with it. So council is in a better position to deal with, the city would be in a better position to deal with any catastrophic events if they were to happen, if the siting agreement was approved.
So with that, back to the question, so what kind of, because you're a volunteer fire captain actually in Amherst or something, aren't you?
I'm the chief of,
Yes. So just help me with the fire suppression. I mean, that's all the question is.
Well, what I know, I don't want to get outside of my scope of expertise here, but essentially it's like what Mr. Meyer said, is it's contained to a fireproof structure. It vents, you contain it to that, and you protect your exposures. So that's what would happen.
Good. Thank you.
Any other questions? Councilman Missions?
Hey, Tom. Amherst, Chief Tom.
Yeah. Yes, sir. I wear a lot.
I know. The white hat's the most fun one, though, isn't it? Personally, I'm giving you a disclaimer. I'm asking him to go outside of his scope, Mr. City Manager. Is there anything else we should be doing to strengthen this agreement to maximize what we can do for our emergency response?
Honestly, sir, we spent a lot of time negotiating this agreement, and I think we got everything we could get.
And the reason I ask is because it's kind of interesting how things happen, but 10 days ago I went to take a look at a house that had fire damage, and the source of the loss was a battery connected to solar panels that exploded in the basement and caught the whole basement on fire. So I can see why people have, the concerns, and I just want to make sure that, one, we're protecting our first responders and we're protecting our citizens first and foremost. And if there's any additional, I guess, what kind of hazardous materials are associated with the batteries? That's probably for you.
So these are lithium-ion chemistry, very similar chemistry that you have in our daily use phones, electric vehicles, those home batteries that you might have been talking about. They are inorganic, as I understand it. So there's no, and again, the testing that has been done on when there has been fires for not only the soil and from the runoff, potentially from some of the firefighting water for suppression. Additionally, the air testing has not found any toxicity damages to anybody. And there's been multiple tests on this up in New York, for example, and other fires.
PFAS included, or is there any PFAS associated with whatever happens?
I cannot tell you specifics on that, sir. I'm sure there is some PFAS in there somewhere, because there's also the other construction materials that, again, plastics, et cetera. What, again, happens, though, is all those materials get created or noted in that emergency response plan book and part of the response training that they receive.
Yeah, because there's certain chemicals and products out there that there's nothing we can do to protect our firefighters, PFAS being one of them. And just, I know I probably have no bearing on this, right? But What I would say is if there's anything you can do to limit the materials that are used in the construction to be as safe to our responders as possible, I'd appreciate it.
Sir, these, again, the guidance most of the time now is for the first responders to not actually try to address it, is to stay back and again, very much so to protect themselves. So
Got it.
if
Thank you, sir.
it were to happen.
Thank you, Tom.
Okay, let's go ahead and vote.
Councilmember Dolan? Yes. Councilmember Helgeson?
Yes.
Councilmember Mischins?
Yes.
Councilmember Taylor?
Yes.
Councilmember Wilder?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Faraldi?
Yes.
Mayor Reed?
Yes.
The motion passes.
Great. Okay, moving on. Now conduct a public hearing to receive citizen input regarding,
Mayor, I'm sorry. I'm working with the police chief and some other folks about council chambers right now. And I know that you had made a call for a gentlemanly-like response, and I can't quite tell if there's ability for people who are standing to infill. Because in thinking about access as far as emergency, we need to get in and around if something were to happen. And so particularly the doors to the back that are currently, and I will note, and I know everyone wants to be in chambers, but we do have just outside of chambers a resource that has this meeting streaming. So there's a room there. And depending on where you're set to speak or to be involved, you can kind of pay attention and kind of egress and flow in and out. And that's just for everyone's safety. So Mayor, I can't quite tell from here if there's more
I
room.
see some empty spaces, so if you're standing, go ahead and fill in. If you have a space next to you, maybe raise your hand and let everybody kind of fill in.
I'd ask the people that are particularly at the doors back here to kind of fill in so that we can have access in and out.
Right, and
Please
then
and thank you. The only other appeal I would make is as we progress through the evening and speakers come and go, that the people who are standing at the periphery of the room would fill into those spaces as well. And
Yes.
so thank you for everybody working together. Appreciate it.
Great, thank you. Okay, so we will conduct a public hearing to receive citizen input regarding appointments or reappointments to vacancies that will exist June 30th, 2024 in School Board Districts 1, 2, and 3. Staff will provide a brief summary of the request. Ms. Alicia Finney.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This is your second public hearing on appointments to the school board. Traditionally, council chooses to close the public hearing at the end of citizen input at this meeting. Last year, you all started your selection of interviews from the list that you have. However, we're holding time for you to do that, but that's not necessary. We'll still have 2 weeks, and June 11th, general business will hold some space there for you to finish your selections in that. State code does dictate that no applicant whose name has not been considered a public hearing can be appointed as a school board member. So I'll read the list of names into the record. District 1, I have Brandon Hill, Daryl Connor, Selena Morgan, Patrick Earl, Nettie Webb, Cynthia Deutsch, Elizabeth Jenkins, Brandy Gibbs, Miles Irwin, Joseph Malloy, Ken Kowalski. District 2, I have Josiah Schneck, Mark Tinsley, Timothy Smith, Margaret Darley, Jabri Poe, Jordan Nesbitt. District 3, I have Aaron Borsay, Taramina Howard, Atul Gupta, Carlos Cifuentes, Beth Ann Fretz, Alicia Brown, and Kimberly Thompson. That's all I have, Madam Mayor.
Okay, great. Well, and this is for the people, if they didn't speak at our last
Correct.
meeting, then they can speak tonight. Okay, so we did this at our meeting 2 weeks ago, and I'm going to open the floor to candidates who'd like to speak at tonight's public hearing. So from each district, we'll start with District 1. If your name is on the list for District 1 and you did not speak at our meeting 2 weeks ago, you can come to the podium, say your name and what district you're from, and you'll be limited to 3 minutes to tell us who you are and why you should be on the school board.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and City Council. My name is Daryl Connor. I live in District 1. I'm retired from Lynchburg City School Transportation Department, where I was a dispatcher supervisor for 12 years. I've been a pastor of Dominion Now Word Church since 2007, so I'm active in ministry in the community. I hold a bachelor's degree in public administration from Liberty University, as well as a master's degree in Christian ministry. I think I bring a unique perspective to the school board, having worked on the service side of the school for so long. Sometimes those functions are not considered: bus drivers, custodians, and they're such a vital part of what takes place. I also, because I was so involved in routing, I was involved with routing alternative schools and special education. So I also have a unique perspective in understanding how our school zoning works. And I understand we've been considering some changes to our school zoning to zone closer to home. One of our biggest problems in the school system is a shortage of bus drivers. And part of that reason is because many of our routes are too long because we're picking kids up too far from their school. And I understand, I look back and I have a unique perspective. I also understand that some of the routes or some of the districts were written when there was a serious issue with integration and segregation, but some of those over 50 years have they're not as critical and vital as they used to be. So I think I bring a unique perspective in understanding and assisting the other school board members and looking at the whole thing and maybe coming up with a plan that would benefit the parents, the students, the schools, and the city council.
Thank you very much. Okay, is there anyone else from District 1 who did not speak? Okay, go ahead.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of council. My name is Elizabeth Jenkins, and I have applied to be on the Lynchburg City School Board from District 1. I am a proud graduate of East St. Glass High School, as is my stepson and my own 2 children. I'm a licensed clinical social worker in Lynchburg and have owned a counseling practice in the city for over 30 years. I can bring trauma insight and trauma-informed insight to the school board as I see firsthand every day the challenges that the children in our community face on a daily basis and the expectations of the teachers and administrators who make it their work to educate and support the children in this community. Additionally, creating, building, and sustaining a small business in the city has given me the knowledge and experience regarding the delicate balance of providing service while maintaining fiduciary responsibility to funding sources. It would be my honor and privilege to serve on the Lynchburg City School Board. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Anyone else here from District 1 who did not speak at our last meeting?
Good evening, and thank you to the members of council for the opportunity to speak. I'm Joe Malloy, candidate for District 1. My quick bio: I'm an engineering graduate from Virginia Tech, 1985. My master's in engineering was from UVA, so for balance. After graduating in Blacksburg, I went to the Navy, spent 5 years as a nuclear submariner, and when I got out, I came to Lynchburg, came to work for Framatome, which was still Babcock & Wilcox at the time, but I spent the last 25 years working for BWXT Mount Athos until I retired on January 1st of this year. So I don't have a degree in education, and I've not worked in Lynchburg City Public Schools. I have spent the last 20 years at BWXT in several management positions where I accumulated a fair amount of experience handling emergent problems, crises, negotiating budgets, submitting to the discipline of an approved budget, handling recruiting and retention challenges, complying with significant regulatory burden, and I hope contributing to the Lynchburg leadership ethos, which make and preserve the positive culture that BWXT prides itself on. This doesn't translate perfectly to the leadership environment of Lynchburg City School Board, but I'll state I've been blessed to have been married to Kathleen Malloy, my wife of 37 years, who does have a bachelor's in education and a master's of education and counseling, and who has spent 14 years teaching and guidance counseling in the elementary, middle, and high schools of Lynchburg and Bedford County. My familiarity with her and many Lynchburg City Schools employees have enabled me to share some of their experiences joys and concerns regarding Lynchburg City Schools and its trajectory over the years. My 3 children were born in Lynchburg, attended Bedford Hills, Lincoln Middle, and they're proud Hilltoppers from EC Glass. They got a first-class education here in Lynchburg. They were all accepted to first-class state school. One son able to get a medical degree from VCU, and beyond that, they got the enrichment of the activities of cross-country, track, pole vaulting, wrestling, the strings program, and band. And I'm saying this partly because I'm proud I am of them, but it really leaves me with a very significant debt to Lynchburg City Schools. I'm offering a candidacy in hopes of repaying schools with what I have to offer. If chosen to serve as Ward 1 rep, my learning curve will be steep. But I apply the 7 habits. I ask tough questions. I listen to the answers. And I will hopefully contribute to the team's effort to make hard choices. And the term I heard at the last city council meeting was kicking the can down the road. That's a harsh way of putting it, but I know a lot of folks were disappointed and want better progress in some of the challenges the Lynchburg City Schools is facing. Again, I'm not an educator, but I have a pretty decent familiarity, some notion of what's going on, and I believe I have the leadership experience and the commitment to make that contribution. If I'm the chosen candidate from Lynchburg City, I will endeavor not to let the team down. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else from District 1 who has not spoken? Anyone else from District 1 who has not spoken? Okay, moving on to District 2 then. Is anyone here from District 2 that did not speak at our last meeting who would like to speak tonight?
Hello, Madam Mayor, Vice Mayor, and fellow council members. I am just going to jump right into this with what I believe key skills for good school board members are: leadership, communication, strategic planning, financial management, policy understanding, and collaboration. I do utilize and improve these skills through my career, my volunteer opportunities, and as a parent on a regular basis, so I don't feel the need to go into my list of qualifications. I can allow my resume and my application to speak to those. With an appointment to the school board, I feel like I bring a new perspective, as I have current LCS students, but also a future LCS student. I also relocated from Arkansas a few years ago, where they did things much differently than Virginia does. And so I've had to spend the last 2 years doing lots of homework to understand even what my children are going to be learning in school. And so that means in every single school board meeting, I'm going to do the homework that it takes and come prepared to make the appropriate decisions and also give the appropriate communications. Some of my personal core values include accountability and clear, effective, detailed communication. I believe accountability is achieved through integrity and data-driven results to ensure that the vision is being met. And communication is achieved through providing necessary details, active listening, and respect. An appointment for me would allow me the chance to join the Legislative Advocacy and Community Relations Committee, so I could have a direct impact and the ability to hold fellow board members and the admin accountable, including their nonverbal communication. Schools can't be successful unless their school board, number 1, have the trust of the students, parents, and community, and number 2, collaborate without adversarial tones with their city council. I want a seat on this school board to help make both of these things a reality for LCS students. Thank you.
Can you please state your name for the record?
Jordan Nesbitt.
Yes. And also Woo Pig.
What was that?
Woo Pig.
Oh, Woo Pig, always.
Sorry, it's an Arkansas thing. But all right, anyone else from District 2? No one else? Okay, moving on to District 3. Is there anyone here that has not spoken from District 3 that would like to speak tonight? Okay. Well, then I will now open the floor to any citizens present who would like to comment upon any name that has been submitted our last meeting or tonight, or offer additional names for consideration. please state your name and district for the record. So you can comment on someone that has put their name in and out of support or recommend another name. And you will also have 3 minutes.
It's Ward District 1, I think. Anyway, Madam Mayor, Mr. Vice Mayor, members of City Council, my name is Gavin Prophet, and it's my honor to be recognized to speak in support of Joe Malloy, whom so many of us know as Joe. His application, I'm here to support his application for the City School Board, and I thank you for this opportunity. I think we all might know the saying, the salt of the earth, but just in case, Merriam-Webster's dictionary defines it as a very good person. And borrowing from that phrase, I believe Joe Malloy to be the salt of this city. He's an honest and he is a good person. Joe embodies a servant's heart. I honestly can't recall a time when Joe complained about being called or led to serve someone in the community or the community broadly. And I want you to think about the worst 5 words anyone can say to you. For me, it's, will you help me move? There's literally a Seinfeld episode about this. Not only will Joe graciously help you move, but he would show up first with the moving truck as well as with the pizza, and he'd probably be upset that he didn't get enough pizza for everybody there, honestly. There are so many people in Lynchburg that could give so many examples of the sincere kindness Joe shares, and it's really funny to me that he mentions that he'll have a steep learning curve because anything that goes wrong in the house, in the house or outside, my mother and father, they're always like, call Joe, he knows how to fix this problem. So simply put, Joe is the type of person you can rely on. He embodies the necessary skill set to be on the school board. He's a Navy veteran who went on to have an incredible career as an engineer here, where he served in very senior roles, as he mentioned, while managing a diverse team with success. Most importantly, he and his wife raised 3 amazing friends of mine through the school system. We attended the same university, and we are still friends to this day. He's a man of faith. He's a man of conviction. He's been invested in this community for just about as long as I can remember. Growing up, for me, he was Coach Malloy, and for so many of us playing youth sports, and now he's a professional mentor to anyone who wants a great conversation and thoughtful advice. In conclusion, Joe is the perfect person to be on school board. For all the reasons I've attempted to summarize, and for so many more. We'd actually have more people here if Joe actually told people he was interested in this role, but I mean, look at the city in action here today. I sincerely hope he earns each of your support, and thank you once again for the opportunity to speak tonight, and I yield back.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else who would like to come speak in support of a candidate that has been mentioned or recommend another name that's not been mentioned?
Evening, Madam Mayor, Vice Mayor, council members. My name is Jonathan Penn. I represent District 2. I'm speaking on behalf of Jabri Poe. Jabri is a lifelong friend of mine. We have gone through a lot. We've learned a lot from each other, and he's a person that I can count on. When he let me know that he was interested in pursuing this role, I was ecstatic to hear. It's something we've been talking about for the last few years of joining the community and doing more action. And from what I've seen in his life, he's participated in many different things, especially in the city of Lynchburg. He's helped with our youth at the detention center. He also has participated in joining, excuse me, let me reverse it back. Jabri was a individual who was looking for a job a couple years back, and it's maybe a decade ago, and he went and did an internship with the IT department in Lynchburg. And it was something that was a non-paid job, and it was during a time where it was probably a good idea to get a job that would pay, but he wanted to hone his skills, be a part of something, and help grow the city. And I just want to speak on his behalf and say he has a pragmatic approach, very diligent in what he does, and I believe that he will represent our citizens well. I yield back.
Thank you very much.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and council members. This evening, I stand before you to support Ms. Selena for school board. Ms. Selena has impacted my life by being an encouraging leader. YWEA has helped grow my confidence and improve my character. During sessions, we learn about how young ladies should carry themselves, embrace our natural beauty, and the attitudes we need to have a successful future. Furthermore, I have learned how important it is to love myself while showing love to others. Also, she has impacted others by educating people on how to apply for colleges, jobs, or simply guiding those in need with necessary steps to achieve their goals. During YWEA, I visited colleges such as FAMU, Morgan State, and local community colleges. Not only has this shown me the transition from high school to college, but responsibilities as well. Ms. Selena is a consistent supporter. I believe she is a source for hope for girls she works with. Many times I have seen Ms. Selena give and pour into others without looking for anything in return. For example, she has showed compassion toward teen moms, teaching them how to be a mother, but most importantly, a student as well. She gives lessons to prepare women for adulthood. She has become an outlet for many young girls. This is by providing opportunities for people to attend prom or school events by creating online donations, as well as fostering to people with unstable homes, providing them with clothes, shoes, and supplies for school. YWEA has hosted workshops that demonstrate different requirements for certain work fields, how to apply for jobs, professionalism, and time management. I think Ms. Selena would be good for this spot because her intentions are genuine. She puts others before herself and includes everyone. She understands what it means to be supportive and understanding while affirmative and directing at the same time. She helps others learn daily skills, such as getting birth certificates or budgeting. Nevertheless, she sets her mind on something and she accomplishes it or strives to finish it. That is why I believe she'll be best for this position.
Thank you. And can you please state your name for the record?
Heaven Harrington.
Okay, thank you very much.
Hi,
Hello, please state your name.
Camille Thornton. Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Council. Tonight, I come before you as a LCS student, soon-to-be graduate, as a daughter of an applicant for school board. Today, I want to share with you how a 15-year-old teen mom tackles statistics and not only pushed herself, but my siblings and anyone she comes in contact with. My mother, Selena Morgan, has applied for school board District 1, and I believe she is the best option. My mom's work goes far beyond our home as she strives daily to not just talk the talk, but actually walk it as well. This year, she took 20 girls from Lynchburg and would have taken more if she had the funds to Atlanta, where we toured colleges, went to historic sites, and got to actually enjoy ourselves. My mom constantly shares the importance of giving back and why it's important to show up every day. I have never seen my peers and other girls feel more seen and heard than with my mother. I think this selection will not only be a great impact on our community, but will allow students like myself to feel heard, seen and valued. I encourage you to consider my mom's application for School Board District 1. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and council members. My name is Ziana Winchester, and I reside in the city of Lynchburg. And I will be speaking on behalf of Selena Morgan in the selection for Lynchburg City School Board. Selena Morgan would be a great candidate for the Lynchburg City School Board. She is a loving, caring, selfless woman who always puts the needs of others first. She has built my confidence to do things I never thought I could accomplish, and she has built my potential and helped me to develop latent qualities and ability that may lead me to my future success and has already led me to present success. She's run an organization I've been a part of for 4 years called the YWEA, or the Young Women's Empowerment Academy, where she continually helps and encourages girls to be the best they can be. She enjoys giving confidence, courage, and potential to children so they can do their best and strive for the greatest there is in life. These are the various reasons why I believe that Selena Morgan should be selected to join the Lynchburg City School Board.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else here who would... Is there anyone else here who would like to speak in support of someone? Please state your name.
Hello,
everybody. Y'all know I have fun when I get up here. My name is Shirley Hannah Connor. I'm the wife of Daryl Connor, but I just want to speak on his behalf since who we had invited to come to speak, they didn't. So I greet you, Mayor and Vice Mayor and all the councilmen. What I want to say about Daryl is he's accountable, he's responsible. And behind the scene, because he was sitting up there talking about the buses and all that, I said, well, tell him all the things you do with the community, because you work from 2-year-olds when I had the daycare all the way up to now. We continue to work with high schoolers and those that's looking for work, those that's trying to get back into college, and we make an effort to make sure we give them the support that they need through Legacy as well as individual through our ministry. So I recommend him because he's going to be responsible and accountable to what's best for our children. What is best to get them through where they're not just going through testing, but they're getting the things that they need to be successful citizens, because this is what we put in them every day. So I just wanted to bring that part of him out, because he got up here talking all about the transportation, and that was good, but you need to tell him how we working with him on a daily basis. And so I just wanted to share that, and we had asked someone else to come and counter so I wouldn't have to be here showing like, but then as she started talking about Mom, I said, oh yeah, now my wife can go, because I know what he will do will be a big positive for the school board, and it will make a difference in the decisions as a whole and be a blessing to our city council, because he's going to get out there, not only talk it, he's going to walk it with the students. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else?
Oh, and he has fake revocations. I still miss what I spoke.
Good evening, Council.
Hello.
My name is Kelvin Moore. I live at 616 Court Street. I'm a Lynchburg native, educated in the Lynchburg City Public School System. I've served on numerous boards and commissions, including the Lynchburg City School Board and the Virginia State Board of Education. We all want to identify emerging young leaders in our community who exemplify high standards. Mr. Jabri Poe has now made it easier for us by carefully considering but cheerfully willing to serve in such an important capacity as a school board member for District 2. He fully understands the commitment, the accountability, and the trust that our city will place upon his shoulders, and he's prepared to assume this important leadership role with integrity and tireless energy. Mr. Poe touches citizens of all walks of life, and with his down-to-earth demeanor, he is approachable throughout the community while maintaining high ideals for academic success. He will prove valuable with the ability to galvanize parents and create opportunities for greater day-to-day involvement in their children's educational endeavors. Mr. Poe possesses many outstanding traits that will serve him well as a school board member. He is respected, he is poised, he is honorable, he has a vested interest in education and community. His passion for education and his innate ability and desire to make a difference in young people's lives ring loud. But it takes more than just caring. It takes the awareness to listen, the willingness to collaborate, and the courage to challenge our school board, our administrators, our teachers, to seek innovative strategies that support division-wide accreditation and afford our students a solid foundation to become successful citizens. The future is bright. Council, I invite you to consider making an investment in Mr. Jabri Poe, a valuable resource as a school board member, and one that would help guide our educational community to higher heights of learning while being budget conscious and fiscally responsible. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Hello.
Brandon Arthur, good to see everyone. Just here to speak on behalf of Jabri Poe as well. I won't be redundant in the things that are said, the great things. just want to speak on behalf of the already involvement he has with the youth, being part-time with the youth at our youth center, working with the youth, trying to get them on the right path, as well as completely firsthand with his own children. I see the passion that he has to see children want to do better, to see them have a brighter future, to see them actually have someone that they can come to directly if there's an issue. He's always been someone who stood on principle and on discipline in every facet of life, and I think he will be amazing to serve the school board. So please consider him as a candidate, and I appreciate y'all's time this evening.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? Last call. Okay, are there any voicemails from citizens?
There are none.
All right, may I have a motion to close the public hearing and begin the selection of candidates?
So moved. Second.
Okay, want to speak to anything? Want to speak to
We
anything?
have a great selection of people to select from. Thank you.
Okay. Any comments or discussion? Okay, let's go ahead and vote.
Councilmember Dolan? Yes. Councilmember Helgeson?
Yes.
Councilmember Mischins?
Yes.
Councilmember Taylor?
Yes.
Councilmember Wilder?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Faraldi?
Yes.
Mayor Reed?
Yes.
The motion passes.
Okay. Next section is public comment. During the public comment, individual, yes.
If you want, you can go ahead and start selecting
do you wanna go ahead and do that
candidates. Yeah, at this meeting. If you're not ready, you don't have to, but you can if you want.
Do we feel comfortable picking the candidates now for interviews, or do you want to wait till the next meeting? Okay, we'll wait till the next meeting then. Yeah. Or did you want?
Madam Mayor, I was going to submit a few names, and then if other names I would add to it later, I would be happy to do that. So
Okay, if you feel comfortable,
I'm willing
go ahead.
to submit a few
Okay,
names.
if you're comfortable, let's go ahead and, go ahead.
Don't have to follow my lead.
Yeah, you don't
but,
have to if you don't want to. Sure.
I might have more later anyway. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Okay.
From District 1, I'd be interested in interviewing Darrell Connor, Nettie Webb, Joseph Malloy. District 2, Mark Tinsley, Jabri Poe, Jordan Nesbitt. District 3, Atul Gupta. Thank you.
The only person I have to add that wasn't called was Ken Kowalski from District 1. And Selena Morgan. Did you add her? Did you say Selena? That's right. Selena Morgan,
So are we giving names now then?
if you're ready to.
We'll still hold space at the June 11th to finalize the selection.
Yeah, that's fine. Anybody else want to add a name?
I'd like to add, I'm not really prepared, but I would add what I have so far is that hasn't been called was Patrick Earl. And also, you called Jabari Poe.
Jabari.
Okay, yes, all right.
So then I'm going to add Cynthia Deutsch and Elizabeth Jenkins for District 1. That's all I'm prepared to do right now.
That's all for now? All right. Councilman Taylor?
I just want to add Mark Tinsley.
He's been added, yeah.
He already?
Yep,
Okay.
yes, sir. Okay. Moving on to public comment. During public comment, individual speakers will have 3 minutes to speak, and those representing a group have 5 minutes to speak. Typically, City Council takes comments made during the public comment section of the agenda under advisement and may refer concerns to the city manager for follow-up. Citizens often express conflicting and diverse positions regarding specific issues under consideration. To encourage citizen participation and to avoid intimidation to persons who may express sometimes unpopular opinions, applause, cheers, or jeers from the audience are not permitted. When appearing before City Council, citizens may not engage in behavior that intimidates or insults others, engage in disruptive behavior, use profanity or vulgar language, promote private business ventures, or campaign for office. We will now hear from a citizen regarding LCS funding. Beverly McCluskey, please restate your name and locality of residence. Okay, and following Ms. McCluskey will be Colleen Larkins and then Joanna Derenbacher, if you want to kind of get in queue, since we have quite a few people on the agenda. And Ms. McCluskey, are you speaking individually or with a group? Just want to clarify because there were some changes earlier.
I'm speaking for Embrace Our Schools, and I'm happy to wait for Councilman Hegelman if you'd like to. I'm happy
So
to wait.
Embrace Our Schools. You're waiting for Councilman Helgeson? I don't know how long he's going to be, so.
Is that a rule? I mean,
Yeah, we have to go ahead and go.
okay, well noted.
Okay.
Madam Mayor and City Council members, my name is Beverly McCluskey, and I was here last year in May speaking to you on the same topic, funding our schools. My husband and I are parents of 4 beautiful girls at EC Glass, Lincoln Middle, and Palm Monroe. Each of you should have a picture of my twin daughter's 4th grade class. These kids were in the middle of kindergarten when COVID hit. They were just starting to learn letters and basic fundamentals of reading and math. Their 1st grade year was from home. That was a challenging year, and if you had the tools and the ability to help your child, it was hard, and especially if you did not. In 2nd grade, they spent the first half of the year masked. That was hard on the teachers and the kids, but at least they were together again in the classroom. Kids are resilient. Their 3rd grade year was the first normal year of school. They had to learn how to be in a classroom and how to behave. Thankfully, their teachers had the gift and talents and training to bring out the best in them. At the end of the year, they all took their first SOL, and their teachers did an amazing job encouraging them, preparing them, and filling in the learning gaps that COVID brought. These kids have just now completed their 4th grade year with Mr. Tony Little and Mrs. Martha Clark. My 2 older girls both have Mr. Little, and he gave them a firm foundation in math and science. I believe this is a strong factor in my oldest being accepted to the governor's school this fall. Mr. Little is a veteran teacher of 28 years, and Ms. Clark is of 18 years. Both teachers created a learning environment that is structured and it instills good behavior expectations. They equip the kids for what's to come. They have to take math and science and English and Virginia studies seriously. Mr. Little also has quite a collection of bobbleheads in his class window, and he loves sports cars. And he also loves playing Frisbee with the kids at recess. Ms. Clark has instilled a love for history and reading, and the kids can't wait to be swept away when she finds time to read aloud to them. Both teachers are excellent role models, and by the end of the year, these kids have a healthy respect and appreciation for them. I am so grateful for all the teachers my 4 daughters have had. God gave them these unique gifts and talents, and they use them every day to educate and serve my children and all of LCS's children. Each of us are different, and we have been given ways to serve one another and serve our community. As councilmen, you have also been given gifts and great responsibility to serve our children and our community. In Luke 12:48, Jesus is speaking to his disciples and the crowds, and he said, "Everyone to whom much was given of him, much will be required. And from him, to him, they entrusted much. They will demand the more." I see year after year what dedicated teachers act out in their daily lives, using their gifts to love and pour generously with their time and their own money into our kids. I also watch your work sessions and your meetings. Are you using your gifts and positions to serve our children and our teachers and our staff, or are you serving yourself? You get what you pay for, or you don't get what you don't pay for. If you really invest generously in our schools, in our students, in our teachers, in our buildings, in our curriculums, you will reap rewards. If you don't invest in our schools, no one will want to live in our city. No one will want to have a business in our city. They will leave. The quality of our public education is a direct reflection of Lynchburg. And because you don't have a child in Lynchburg City School doesn't mean you can defund it. What if the school budget was cut back when you were in school? What if your teachers left? What if your mentor didn't exist because your school just couldn't afford them? What if we didn't have money for your schools? What if your school closed? Could your parents have afforded a private education, or would you have been left on the wayside? It's a privilege to be a part of a public education. It isn't perfect, absolutely not. But it's an opportunity for young citizens, parents, teachers, bus drivers, lunch ladies, librarians, janitors, gym, music and art teachers, business leaders, administrators, and public servants to be part of making tomorrow better for our whole community. I want my children to be in a classroom full of kids that are different than they are in many ways. I want them to have a richer educational experience. I want them to be lifted up, and I want them to lift others. All of Mr. Little and Mrs. Clark's fourth grade classroom have one thing in common. They are innocent. They didn't ask for the future education juggle in the air. Maybe some parents will throw up their hands and decide they just can't risk it. But we are staying. We will be staying firm, shoulder to shoulder with families that don't have the option to leave the public schools. All city school kids deserve is a bright future. Someone on your educational journey thought you were worth investing in. Invest in my kids.
Thank you. We'll now hear from a group representative regarding tax cuts from Save Sandusky, Colleen Larkins. Then we have Joanna Derenbacher and then Beth White.
My name is Colleen Larkins. I'm representing Save Sandusky. First and foremost, I would like to thank you. Thank you, Mayor Reed, for coming to Sandusky and for being part of our honors dinner, but for also speaking truth. Thank you, Vice Mayor, for being the first person to, as someone wrote on Facebook, come into the Lion's Den. Just for the record, I'd like to say that we as Sandusky parents are not the Lion's Den. We were very nice to him. Thank you, Wilder and Dolan, for always championing our schools. We always know that you're on our side. And Taylor, thank you so much for thinking outside of the box. You showed our kids what it meant to see a problem and have no solution, but find one. We are so grateful for that. We got to end our school year knowing we would have a school year next year. For those parents like me, it was our last school year there, but even for the teachers, the principals, it was a relief. It was a relief to be able to have field day and honors dinners and all of these things and not have that looming over our head. So I just wanted to take a second and thank those of you who put the effort in to find a solution for us for next year. Which leads me to a little bit of a shocking thing after you guys met, and I see all of a sudden that there are discussions about tax cuts, that there are things being said that we should take more money away from our schools. Our schools are already at level funding, and I use quotes when I say level funding because we're going off a number from 2022. As you guys have talked about, Councilman Hagelson and Mischens, the inflation is a lot over the last few years. So if you take what $39 million looked like back then to now, it would really be $42 million. But that's not what we're talking about giving our schools. Now we have two council members, Mischens and Hagelson, saying you're going to give our schools less. You're going to cut even more. Cutting $3 million from our children would mean Restorative Academy is gone. It would mean that our teachers would not get raises. It would mean overcrowded classrooms. And that's before we even discuss getting rid of schools. What does that look like for education? Public safety is something we talk a lot about. I heard you guys ask a lot of questions about our public safety with new things coming into our area. What about the foundation of our public safety? Our schools. Where do you think our citizens start? In kindergartens, in preschools, in first and second grade. Children who do not have literacy rates where they should by fourth grade, 75% of them will end up incarcerated or on welfare. We will end up paying the money. The question is, will we pay it now in education or will we pay it later in public safety and incarceration and in welfare? It costs more, 5 times more to pay for someone who is incarcerated than it does to pay for a good education for our children. So my question for you is, where will you invest? I've heard them ask you, what is your legacy? That's what you're supposed to look at when you look at the budget, right? I would hate for a couple of your legacies to be you want to defund our schools. Because our children need better. Our children deserve better. There's also a lot of misinformation going around, like, for example, that our schools are sitting empty. There's lots of room in our schools. Well, Sandusky Elementary is full. Mr. Womack could nod his head at this, but we actually had to find places in surrounding schools for children to go because there was no room left. These classrooms aren't sitting empty. They're not sitting unused. Quite the contrary. They're being used to their full potential. But putting 30 kids in a room is not going to help our city. Getting rid of our Restore Academy is not going to help our city. Cutting more money from our budget is not going to help our city. And so if it's just about the dollars and cents, it's just about being accountable for our money, it makes a whole lot more sense to invest in our children now so that they become productive members of society than it does to have to incarcerate them later. LCS deserves better than this. Not just Sandusky, not just TC Miller, but Heritage and EC Glass and Lincoln and Sheffield and Perrymont and all of the other schools, the thousands of children that go to our schools deserve better. They deserve to be funded, and we do not deserve to continue to be threatened with tax cuts and all of these other things. $1.10 in my pocket of a tax cut will not replace a good education for my children.
Thank you. When I hear from a citizen regarding defunding Lynchburg City Schools, Joanna Derenbacher, then Beth White, and then Bruce Rubenberg.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen of the City Council. My name is Joanna Derenbacher. I come before you today not just as a concerned parent, but as an advocate for the future of our community. My daughters, Kara and Sophie, they're sitting back there. They go to Heritage High School and Sandusky Middle School. And tonight I'm asking you to prioritize the funding of our public education system. Let's first consider the undeniable correlation between successful public schools and the health of our community. I've been a nurse in our community for 19 years, and I came back to our community because I believed Lynchburg to be a great place to raise a family. We can all recognize that education is not merely an academic pursuit, but it's the cornerstone of a thriving society. It is through education that we empower individuals to lead fulfilling lives and contribute meaningfully to society, which then leads to health and prosperity. Now, instead of the commitment to give LCS needed funds, there is a proposed $2.8 million tax cut. I wanted to share with you how my daughters will be affected by cutting the budget again from our schools. If this tax cut is approved, LCS will have to cut 25 teachers and licensed staff. That's 4 staff from elementary schools, 2 from middle, along with 3 science teachers, 3 math teachers, 2 art teachers, 2 English teachers, and 1 each from special education, social studies, music, cultural arts, PE, gifted, reading, librarian, and behavioral coaching. So who are these teachers to our family? Again, my daughters, they are well-behaved and they're amazing kids. They both have great grades. They love volleyball, just like the shirt that I'm wearing. They're both in their volleyball teams. They're well-liked by their peers and their teacher. And who do we owe that success to? Without a doubt in my mind, it's because of the LCS teachers that they've had over their years here in Lynchburg. So again, who are they? They are Julie Speck, the amazing kindergarten teacher who taught both my girls how to read and persevere. Stacy Irvin, who delivered homework to our house in 2020 when I was working as a healthcare provider during COVID. Lee Hensley, who, quoting my 15-year-old daughter, is the best middle school teacher ever because she is encouraging and lovely to everyone. Stephanie Campbell, who walked my eldest through her first AP class and taught her about human geography and all the different people that make up our world. Addie Smulik, who walked a scared 3rd grader off the bus when she returned to in-person from COVID to a brand new school. Janelle Brem, who gave my sweet introvert a voice to be heard. These teachers have impacted our family and our children in numerous ways. And man, we couldn't be more proud to support them. So can you please support them too?
Beth White? I don't see her in here. Bruce Rubenberg? And then after that will be Cynthia Capps and Sarah Corontoto.
Shalom, and thank you for having me here today, and a lot of my family that are here with me. Not all, but a lot. My name is Bruce Rubenberg. I am a proud Jewish father, husband, and member of this beautiful community. I am also the owner of Fex Martial Arts Center. On October 7th, 2023, my heart was shattered. My people's hearts were shattered, and most of humanity's hearts were shattered. I heard the words that Pastor Dan Harrison said in front of this honorable council. Some things he said warmed my heart, while some things made me question his education on the subject he was speaking. I am not here to argue his history on religion, though I believe someone should. Pastor Dan said October 7th is something he doesn't understand. He is absolutely correct. He doesn't understand. On October 7th, the Jewish homeland and birthplace of Christianity was brutally, inhumanely, and viciously attacked with one purpose: to rape, torture, and murder Jews. As I was receiving messages from family and friends in a fashion that I have never experienced, they were messages of panic, fear, and pure chaos. The videos I started to receive almost immediately of the brutality by the terrorist army of Gaza, Hamas, were hard to imagine being real. I can't explain what I know or the videos I have in this room. How do humans do this to other humans? I would like to thank Pastor Harrison for his heartfelt quest for peace. Peace and love is not just something to hope for, but to work for, and most importantly, pray for. The pastor also called for the immediate release of all hostages, though many don't seem to be among the living anymore. I thank him for the call for their release. That is more than most people do. He called for the immediate release of hostages and a full ceasefire. This is where it becomes bad advice. If we cease fire now, Hamas will regroup and nothing will change. There will only be more death, more suffering, and heartache. Until Hamas unconditionally surrenders or is absolutely destroyed, there will never be peace. You can't make peace with someone who comes to kill you, and when someone says they're going to kill you, believe them. Hamas has promised that October 7th will happen over and over again. They call for the death of all Jews around the world and the total annihilation of my people's homeland. To call for a ceasefire without the total annihilation of Hamas is literally calling for the death of my parents, my wife's parents, my family, and my children. War is awful. Thinking of death of any man, woman, or child is sickening. The people of Gaza have the right, the deserving, and the ability to live a peaceful, fruitful, and happy life as anyone in this world does. But until the people of Gaza recognize and respect Israel's right to live, peace is nothing more than a dream. My friends and family in Israel never wish harm or suffering by any people, including those in Gaza. My friends and family in the IDF that are in Rafah right now don't wish harm or suffering from the people in Gaza. We just want to live with our children in peace. I hope and pray for better days after this, but I know it will take compromise on both sides. Israel is here, and it is here to stay. The pastor called for Lynchburg City Council to support an immediate ceasefire. I am asking for Lynchburg City to not call for the death of my wife, my family, and my children. Thank you.
We will now hear from a citizen regarding councilman and propaganda, Cynthia Capps. Please restate your name and locality of residence. And then we will have Saren Quarantoto and Kathleen Olinger. Hopefully I'm saying that right.
Good evening. My name is Cynthia Capps. I'm a lifelong resident of Lynchburg, and it's my honor to speak with you all this evening. Madam Mayor, Mr. Vice Mayor, and City Council members. On May 22nd, I was notified that my email to City Council dated May 19th, in which I asked for clarification on voting and lack of voting that took place at the May 14th council meeting, was being used as propaganda by a member of City Council. Mr. Mischens linked my email to his newsletter, if you will, to promote inaccurate numbers and talking points about this budget. I wanted to begin by expressing my disappointment in this attempt to try and confuse conservative voters. As a conservative voter, it saddens me that two of the loudest conservatives on city council continue to conduct themselves and conduct business in a manner that gives all of us conservatives a bad reputation. I do not use the adjective loudest as an insult, as Mr. Mischins referred to those of us who speak at council meetings as, quote, the loud few that show up in council chambers in that same newsletter. The bottom line is this: council has promised LCS $39 million. Mr. Mischins and Mr. Helgeson only want to give LCS $36 million because of what the state is giving. They are only interested in level funding, which has already been mentioned, and which has been at $39 million since 2022. It does not account for inflation. True level funding at this point would actually be closer to $42 million. Underfunding our public schools is only widening the achievement gap for our children. A $2.8 million tax cut would only translate to $1.10 per month per taxpayer. Giving LCS only $36 million would mean yet another round of cuts, in addition to the 5% that has already been made. So it sounds as if they're happy to keep cutting and cutting without taking into consideration the impact that it will have on our children. We know that Framatome is currently in construction on a new facility to bring over 500 new jobs to Lynchburg. Many of those coming to Lynchburg will be families with school-aged children. Underfunding Lynchburg City Schools will almost guarantee that those families will move into the counties and take their tax revenue with them. What you've received tonight is a picture of why funding public education is important to me. I do ask at this time that you do not use, copy, or distribute this photo in any way. This is one of my former students in LCS. I taught him in first and second grade from 2017 to 2019 at Sandusky Elementary. After I left LCS, his family moved and he transferred to Bass Elementary. I was able to connect with his principal and teachers to arrange visits with him at the school. I would take him goodie bags of snacks and books because when I taught him, he would always be hungry, and that made it hard for him to focus and do his best work. Things at home weren't always the best that they could be for him, but at school, he knew he would have plenty to eat and have plenty of adults who loved him and would make sure that all of his needs were met, both physically and academically. He started middle school at Sandusky Middle School. Again, his principal and counselor have graciously allowed me to visit with him so that he is constantly reminded that Mrs. Capps loves him, that she is proud of him, and that she will always be his biggest cheerleader. This photo was taken last week just before the end of school, and I learned that he'll be transferring to Dunbar for 8th grade. What that means is that myself, Mr. Womack, and other Sandusky Elementary staff who are invested in this student will continue to visit and support him. This child is worth far more than $1.10 in tax refunds per
I'm
month.
sorry, your time is up, but thank you. Next up is Saren Quirantoto, followed by Kathleen Olinger and George Dawson.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, Vice Mayor, and members of council. My name is Sarah Quarantoto, and I am here tonight as a parent of two LCS students, one a rising 5th grader and one a rising 3rd grader. I am here in opposition to certain council members' proposal that the city of Lynchburg further decrease funding to Lynchburg City Schools if the Commonwealth increases their funding. Cutting funding for public schools in order to save taxpayer money is incredibly short-sighted, as ultimately the city of Lynchburg will lose countless taxpayers who are not interested in living in a city where the city council does not invest in students. I am not interested in living in a city, and nor do I want my children going to a school district where the local city council does not believe in the power of public school to empower them. Decreased funding for public schools means that skilled teachers will continue to leave for employment opportunities elsewhere. And it means that underpaid teachers will continue to use their own resources to buy supplies. And ultimately, it means that our students will not have the educational support they need to thrive. As the daughter and sister of two public school teachers, I know that their level of service and dedication to their students knows no bounds. And rather than exploit this, we should be compensating them at a level that befits their important position in society. A healthy city, and one where I want to live, and countless others want to live, is one in which the local city council invests heavily in our young people, and through this investment communicates the incredible value children have in the Lynchburg community. I am asking that all of you demonstrate this commitment to my children and all children. through investing as much as possible in our local school district. And I am confident that the return on investment will be great. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Kathleen Olinger, George Dawson, and then Eric Nygaard.
You pronounced it right. You got
Good.
it, nailed it. Good evening, council. My name is Kathleen Olinger, and I'm here speaking as an educator and a member of the community, but I'm also a resident of Ward 3 and a parent of an LCS student who's going into 8th at Sandusky Middle. I am here tonight for the first time ever because I was literally appalled that the one thing that we all can agree on in this room and in this community is that our schools are in trouble. And yet, the leaders of our city, especially you, Jeff Heckelson, would even think to return funds that were sent to us to help our struggling school system is insane. So that's why I've come tonight. Giving this money to taxpayers through property tax once again reinforces the obvious agenda to only support the rich and continue to take from the poor and working class of this city. If you continue to focus on protecting only the property owners, many of whom don't even live here, you will also continue to neglect the other 52% of citizens, and then some, who rent. In summary, I implore this city council to reject behavior like this and continue to support our struggling school system. Do not turn away resources that this city deserves. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. George Dawson?
Good evening, Mayor Reed, Vice Mayor, council members. I'm George Dawson. I'm a resident of the city of Lynchburg. I live at 203 Colonial Court. Unlike the other speakers tonight, I don't have a student in Lynchburg City Schools. I don't represent any organization. I'm not here to talk about my particular interest or the interest of my family. I'm here to talk to you about the future of our city and your view of that future, and to ask you to deeply consider the things that you're going to hear tonight. Some of us may realize that the question on the table tonight is really the future of our city, the economic development, the economic support, the economic health and future of the city of Lynchburg. You may think that's an overstatement. Based on my 40 years in Lynchburg, I would disagree with you. Based on my 25 years as CEO of Central Health, in which I was recruiting professionals every day, doctors, nurses, techs to our city. Based on the 40-some different organizations and boards I've served on that were dedicated to economic development, building Region 2000, bringing companies to our community, growing the companies that are already here. I'm here to tell you, I don't think it's an overstatement. How's the economic health connected? Well, first of all, any business in our community wants to know that we have a viable, ready-to-work, understanding, well-trained, well-educated basic workforce that's entering the market at high school graduation. Some of those students will go into college or technical school. Some will go on to be master's degree trained or physicians or nuclear engineers. Some will have other jobs, but they're all going to take care of us in the future. A knowledgeable company looking to move to Lynchburg is going to know what we support and what we believe on. Do we support education? Our community has to be a community that's united, where we don't have different social stratas based on income and educational opportunities, where we don't have diverse populations that have different life experiences and don't intersect with each other until too late in their lives. The overall quality of life, including the safety and the culture of our community, I think is at stake. When we talk about safety and culture, it's not just what happens at the fire department and the police station. It's what happens in the third grade, or actually what happens when you're 3 years old and you're forming your lifelong habits as a pre-K student. Now, some people may think that the best strategy for growing our city is to invest in a low tax basis, to let us be known as the low tax city.
Your time
I disagree with those. I disagree with all of those who think that the low road
I'm
is the
sorry,
high
George,
road.
your time is up.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
If you would like to hear the rest of my thoughts, please call me. You know where to reach me, particularly you, Jeff. We
Thank
know
you.
each other well. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Eric Nygaard, followed by Sam City and Amanda Rumor.
Good evening, Council. My name is Eric Nygaard. I'm a Lynchburg native resident. I was also born and raised here. I'm also a product of the Lynchburg City school system. I'm a graduate from EC Glass. In addition to getting an excellent education at EC Glass, I also was exposed to extracurricular activities that allowed me to flourish my interest in engineering. And I went off to the University of Wisconsin-Madison, where I received 2 degrees in nuclear engineering. I think George might have actually been talking about me, because I'm actually a product of the recruitment process of bringing professionals to Lynchburg and staying here. After I went off and got my education in Wisconsin, I moved home, because this is home to me, and this is where I have chosen to raise my family. My eldest son just finished 1st grade at Paul Monroe Elementary School, but tonight I'm not actually talking as a parent. I'm actually piggybacking off a lot of what George said and talking as a member of the local business community that had done a lot of time and energy recruiting people to Lynchburg. When I recruit people to Lynchburg, emphasizing the importance of schools has historically been one of our strong suits in the recruitment process. And also, the external perception of how the community invests in its schools is also extremely important. When recruiting people to Lynchburg, it's really important to be seen as a community that is investing in our children and in the education system. This perception is very, very important and can make or break a candidate's decision on whether or not they decide to move here. Secondly, our own community, council, must own the responsibility to adequately fund and maintain our school system. This local ownership of funding and doing it adequately and sufficiently matches the seriousness and the commitment that our companies ask of the candidates when we try to bring them to town. So I please ask all of you to provide more funding for the school systems to keep the local business community's ability to attract good talent up. This is vital for our economic performance as a city, because we're not just competing with our peers locally, but we're competing with people nationally. And our school systems are very, very important for our national competitiveness. Thank you.
Thank you. Sam City.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and members of council. My name is Sam City. My family and I work, live, and attend school in Ward 3. It was brought to light that Councilman Huglison, who represents my ward, asked the city manager to find ways to provide tax relief, since the state will, more than likely, we think, contribute more funding than expected for schools. It was stated that, and I quote, "Locally, we can choose to carry out the governor's plan to lower the tax burden, or we can follow the majority that chose to spend the excess funds. Personally, I choose to return the excess funds," unquote. On initial reading, there seems to be a desire to provide tax relief for us as citizens. But upon further reflection, I remember hearing a very similar statement a year ago when our property taxes were reduced to 89 cents. If I'm to be very honest, my family has not seen an impact from this tax reduction. We're a working class family in a Moss home in Fort Hill. Aside from the $10 garbage fee being waived each month, we honestly have not seen such tax relief. As a resident of Ward 3, I'm very disappointed that my city council representative would want to reduce local allocations for schools in the name of tax relief. It causes doubt as to whether or not these drastic measures to cut local funding for our schools truly are about the welfare of all citizens. I understand the council does not determine the allocation of school funds, but I'd like to provide an example. It's been mentioned many times how disruptive students are sent to the principal's office only to return to the classroom with a lollipop. If that were the case, my kids would come home every Friday with a gallon bag size of Dum-Dums with their Friday folder. Please pray for me. Elementary assistant principals are not SOQ funded positions. It was also questioned at the joint council and board meeting in March whether or not assistant principals were needed in elementary schools. Yet Mr. Adam Benyo, the assistant principal at Sheffield Elementary School, has been an enforcer for discipline and Mrs. Lee's right-hand man. He means business, y'all. We hear how students lack discipline but not funding assistant principals would only make it worse. School counselors are also essential to student well-being. Mrs. Terry Higgins has been a tremendous resource and encourager for my children. My husband and I have worked with the administration of Sheffield through a variety of behavior issues as a result of ADHD, depression, and anxiety disorders, diagnoses that I did not expect when I signed up to become a parent. But I'm very grateful for the many administrators and teachers at Sheffield Elementary School. I'll end with this. I've lived in 3 out of 4 wards since 2007. Sorry, I haven't lived in Ward 2 yet, but I'm a neighbor, so I say hey every now and then. And I absolutely love living in Ward 3. But it's very disappointing to have a council member who ultimately does not have the best interests of families like mine in his ward. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Amanda Rumor, Jeffrey Wooters, and Kate Sigler. And Amanda is with Bedford Hills Elementary PTO.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and City Council members. My name is Amanda Ramore. I am speaking to you tonight as the president of the Bedford Hills Elementary PTO. I am also a parent of 2 LCS students, an educator, a concerned citizen, and an advocate for our city's public education system. I stand before you tonight opposing any reduction in school funding for the upcoming fiscal year. First, let me just say how disheartening it is for all of these parents and supporters to be here tonight, because our students got out last Friday. We should be at swim team practice or on vacation and enjoying time with our family. Yet we're here because even though our kids are out of school for the summer, we deeply care about the education they will receive when they return in August. Our PTO believes education is the foundation of any thriving community. Every year, we raise thousands of dollars to support our school, to provide teachers with classroom supplies, to host events like Stream Night and Field Day, and to promote literacy through our successful week-long readathon. We do this to make sure our school students and staff have what they need to give our children the best possible educational experience. However, we cannot be there to hire teachers and staff or fix the aging school infrastructure, and we shouldn't have to. We should not have to fill the gaps in basic educational needs. Last year, Lynchburg City Schools faced a staggering reduction in funding, and at Bedford Hills, this resulted in fewer teachers and larger class sizes. In fact, there was one second-grade class of 28 students. Do you know what the National Education Association recommends for an elementary school class size? 18, because anything above that results in diminished learning gains, disproportionately affecting those students with greater learning needs. As you can imagine, Bedford Hills parents were frustrated. Our teachers were stretched to their limits, and our students suffered due to last year's cuts. If we further reduce the funding for schools, these large class sizes will become the norm, and we will be failing our children and the education they deserve. Our schools are not seeking extravagant salaries or the purchase of fancy equipment. They are literally and figuratively fighting to keep the lights on. Every time I have visited our school in the last few weeks, the lights were off in the hallway and the classrooms. Why? Because of the district-wide effort to reduce energy costs. Because next year, utility costs will be $2.4 million higher than just 3 years ago. And while well-intentioned, these cost-saving measures are unsustainable and demoralizing for students and staff. Even with the lights on, teaching today is more demanding than ever. Engaging, managing, and motivating students requires exceptional skill, energy, and patience. Our educators need adequate resources to meet the complex academic, social, emotional, and behavioral needs of our students. And without proper compensation, we cannot expect to retain these high-quality teachers. Furthermore, the proposed reductions in school funding will result in even more staff cuts, placing an unfair burden of our remaining educators. Increased funding is not a cure-all for the systemic issues we face. The school board you appointed is working diligently to address these issues, but they need your support. Any attempt to create a tax break at the expense of our children's education is short-sighted. While the immediate financial relief might seem appealing, the cost is far too great. And you need to consider what message you are sending the citizens of Lynchburg when you vote on school funding. Is the message going to be that you are willing to sacrifice the quality of our children's education for short-term gains? Or will the message be that you prioritize education and want to invest in the potential of every LCS student? Our schools need your support. They cannot continue to operate at level funding without negatively impacting the quality of education they provide. Any reduction in school funding affects every parent, student, business, and citizen. Please do not sacrifice our most vulnerable population, our children, for just a minor tax break. Fully fund our schools and invest in the future of Lynchburg City. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Jeffrey Wooters.
Good evening. My name is Jeffrey Wooters. I'm a proud resident of Ward 3 of the city of Lynchburg. Central to my development as a citizen, student, and leader was my upbringing in Lynchburg City Public Schools. I entered our schools in 2009 at Sheffield Elementary, then moved to R.S. Payne. I then went to Dunbar Middle School and E.C. Glass High School. I'm now a rising third year at the University of Virginia. My experiences across these institutions shaped me into the person I am today, and I credit great teachers for believing in me, for pushing me, and for molding me into the person they knew I could be. I wouldn't be half the man I am today without them, but they had to do all this in spite of the hand they had been dealt. I remember in second grade, we were finally getting dedicated classrooms for art and music. Sheffield was so ungodly overcrowded, with student-teacher ratios reaching 30-1, that the division carted in trailers and shunted fifth graders and extracurricular teachers out of the building. At R.S. Payne, we went through extracurricular teachers like candy because the school simply could not retain quality instructors. At Dunbar, I had to watch my step in the stairways because actual maggots were falling from the ceilings. And at E.C. Glass, I had to watch overworked, overtired, and overstressed teachers attempt to control classes that were simply too big for the classrooms they were assigned. And I think I know why. For fiscal year 2024, the city of Roanoke, Virginia devoted 40% of its local tax revenue to Roanoke Public Schools, funding the system with $106 million, representing 29.3% of its general fund revenues for that year. The same year, the city of Charlottesville spent a little over $67 million on Charlottesville schools, representing about 29.3% of the city's total expenses. In that same year, the city of Harrisonburg budgeted $123 million from its total funds for its schools, representing over 34% of the city's expenditure. In fiscal year 2024, the city of Lynchburg, Virginia spent $39,360,355 on Lynchburg City Public Schools. And for those of you who are wondering, that represents just over 16.5% of our city's expenditures for fiscal year 2024. Small wonder then that our schools are crumbling before our very eyes. Now that the big government Democrats in Richmond have made the intelligent fiscal decision to invest in schools across the Commonwealth, what do some council members suggest we do? Do we provide the funds to keep T.C. Miller and Sandusky open on a permanent basis? Do we provide the funds to pay our teachers a decent wage so we can attract the best talent from the best schools? No, that's ridiculous. No, what this city really needs is tax relief for the property owners and business people. Put an extra dollar in their pockets while the working and middle classes languish in our decrepit and failing schools. So I issue each and every one of you a challenge. Visit one of our city's wonderful schools. Show up and come face to face with your teachers, Councilman Helgeson at Sheffield, and the rest of you wherever your heart pleases. And in the same breath where you shake their hands and you listen to their concerns and you tell them you represent them and you speak for them and you have their interests at heart, make sure to look them in the eye while you stab them in the back. You'll only be carrying forward what you voted to do here tonight. Thank you.
Kate Sigler, support of full funding for Lynchburg City Schools as a parent of middle and elementary school students. Please restate your name and locality of residence.
Hi, my name is Kate Sigler, Ward 1, current Paul Monroe Elementary and Lincoln Middle School parent. I know we all share a love for the city and its residents, so I would like to thank you for your service and for the opportunity to speak in support of Lynchburg City Schools. Originally, I prepared my comments by researching economic and research-based arguments for maintaining local funding for LCS. And there are many, but I quickly realized that I did not have anything more to contribute that you and my fellow commoners didn't already know. So I was at a loss for words. And then a mentor of mine challenged me to provide a unique perspective, and I recalled Benjamin Franklin's quote, "An investment in knowledge pays the best interest." An investment in knowledge pays the best interest. My husband and I are proud products of Lynchburg City Schools, both graduates of E.C. Glass and Lincoln Middle. After graduating from the University of Virginia and my husband from Hampton-Sydney College, we started successful careers in Northern Virginia. However, when starting a family, we made the choice to come back so our children could attend Lynchburg Public Schools. 30 years ago, local public officials and taxpayers made the decision to invest in my education at one of the highest levels in the Commonwealth. Teachers like Doc Locke, Marie Waller, and Patty Worsham had the resources to not only expertly teach their respective subjects, but they taught me to think independently and to not accept good enough when I could achieve excellence. They taught me to apply my knowledge and skills in and out of the classroom and to better my student body and local community. Shortly after I returned to Lynchburg, I was awarded the City of Lynchburg Vice Mayor's Award of Excellence for my contributions to the local community. The investment made in those teachers and therefore my education was reaping the benefits for Lynchburg. An investment in knowledge pays the best interest. Ms. Waller, Doc Locke, and Mrs. Worsham may no longer be walking the halls of EC Glass, but I have already experienced highly devoted, inspiring teachers with my children. Soraya McKinney, Leah Bird, Tristan Burke, to name a few, that deserve to have adequate resources to invest in today's children. With the lingering effects of the pandemic, now is not the time to not invest in our schools. As a rising 7th grader, my son wants to return to Lynchburg to solve nuclear fusion so that future generations will have a more efficient, safer, renewable energy Can you imagine the economic potential for Lynchburg? And he is just one of the many capable students that, given a chance, could produce significant results to benefit Lynchburg for years to come. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we would hear from a group representative regarding the budget, Bianca Childress from Lincoln Middle School PTO, followed by Scott Weeb, sorry if I said that wrong, and Sarah Beck.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of council. My name is Bianca Childress. I'm a resident of Ward 1, and I will be speaking on behalf of the Lincoln Middle School PTO. Like many in this room, I have and continue to wear many hats. I'm a combat veteran of the United States Army, and after completing my active duty service, continue to serve our troops overseas as a government contractor. Upon starting my family, I chose to serve in an even more difficult capacity as a stay-at-home mother to our 2 children. When my children began to get older, I reemerged into the paid workforce and chose to serve my community by advocating for early education and our city schools. This year, I will be completing my 2nd year as the Lincoln Middle School PTO treasurer, and I've committed to serve an additional 2 years as the PTO president. After leaving Paul Monroe, which had a very robust PTO and a tremendous fundraising capacity, I was surprised when I saw some of the limitations that we had at Lincoln Middle School. Despite that, the hard work of our incredible parents and staff, this year we were able to raise over $8,500. Huge, big for us. As the treasurer, I was charged to ask our staff and teachers what their greatest need was, and excited to do something like we had done at Paul Monroe, whether it was STREAM, extra programming in the classrooms. The biggest ask that I had were for things like composition notebooks, paper, pencils, markers, art supplies. It was really incredibly disheartening to see that we were sending our children to schools where we don't have the financial capacity to pay for basic classroom supplies, let alone maintaining our buildings and paying our teachers a livable rate. Councilman Higgleston, at the end of this year, our principal requested PTO funds in the amount of $2,040 to pay for a special program that incentivized positive behavior in our school. We've used it the last several years, and it has continued to show positive behavior, which as a parent of 2 middle school students at Lincoln, we do have an issue and we need to improve it. This year, because of budget cuts, our principal could no longer afford it and asked the PTO to purchase it. That $2,040 is 24% of the revenue that we were able to raise, but we chose to invest that into our schools because we believed it was just that, an investment. That $2,040 would equate to just under 62 parents if using the slideshow that you presented at the work session, out of the 582 students that we have, I think parents would be more than willing to sacrifice that amount. If you want tax cuts, which as a small business owner, I am all for common sense tax cuts that are sustainable. This is not the way to do it. We need to invest in our city schools. As highlighted in several other meetings, quality public schools improve our economic development, real estate assessments, reduce dependency on public assistance, and result in greater tax revenue, reduce crime education, and improve public health. I implore each of you to please support our public schools. Please allocate those funds so that we can use them in a positive way to positively impact not just the children that attend our schools, but our community as a whole. Thank you.
Thank you. Up next, we'll hear from a citizen regarding support of LCS teacher pay. Scott Weeb, and please correct me if I said it wrong. And
Sure.
then Sarah Beck and Kelly Knight.
Hello, my name is Scott Wiebe. My family actually lives right across the street from Lincoln Middle and Elementary Schools, and I'm here to speak in support of maintaining city funding for Lynchburg City Schools with some specific praise for our teachers, who deserve nothing less than the ability to get a raise in these tough economic times. My wife and I helped guide our 4 kids through another year at 3 different schools, EC Glass, Lincoln Middle, and Lincoln Elementary. 3 of our kids are actually here tonight watching city government in action, but the 4th couldn't be here because she was at an end-of-year event for one of her high school clubs. As parents, we tried to do our part, getting involved at meetings and events, volunteering, asking for teacher conferences, being generally engaged. It gave us a firsthand look again this year at the amazing people doing the hard work. The energetic principals, the English teachers trying to instill a passion for writing and literature, the strings and theater teachers stirring up a love for the arts, the elementary teachers trying to keep their energetic students focused from first day to last day, the math teachers, that really great AP teacher, and so many more. We do what we can to tell our kids' amazing teachers that they are amazing, but we also know that words aren't enough. Actions speak louder, and we are relying on you to extend our words into action by maintaining and even increasing LCS funding at the local level. Let's extend the message that we value our schools in this way. You've heard tonight that educating our children is part of the foundation of our city. If the foundation of my house needed repair, something that will require real money to fix, sure, I'm going to look for a deal, there's no question. But I'm not going to sacrifice quality in the pursuit of that deal. There's a baseline for quality that needs to be met. In the past week, I've been thinking a lot about next fall's kindergarten classes, maybe because there is nothing more foundational than kindergarten. Our youngest just graduated from elementary school last week, but no matter how old our kids get, we will never forget Mrs. Reed, the kindergarten teacher to our 4 kids, someone who I've seen arrive at the school before dawn and leave before dark on a regular basis. I want all of next year's kindergartners to get the value of a Mrs. Reed, a teacher whose value you can't begin to fund, but I sure hope you'll try. We need these quality teachers. In these economic times, budgets are hard to balance. I know it applies to the city's budget. I can tell you it applies to mine. But don't forget that it also applies to our school systems and to the personal budgets of our teachers. Send the message that we are a city that cares about these people who care about our kids. You've already heard it said tonight that you get what you pay for, and I couldn't agree more. It applies to everything from building costs to teacher salaries. You get what you pay for. So my closing request is a simple one. Please pay for this. Make LCS funding a priority. Thank you.
Thank you. Now you're from a citizen regarding funding for LCS, Ms. Sarah Beck.
Good evening, and thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Sarah Beck, and I am a professor locally at Randolph College and an LCS parent of 2 elementary school children. I am here tonight to speak in support of robust investment in our public schools, like so many people here tonight. It's really exciting to see the energy for that. in contrast with the proposed reallocation of state-granted educational revenue put forth by Jeff Helgeson earlier this month. The City Council has frequently noted that declining LCS enrollment is a justification for reducing the spending in the public school system. As a parent on the ground, I want to propose a different interpretation, and one that I think better reflects the reality of our community. Enrollment is declining in part because families with financial and personal resources are opting out of our public schools. They perceive some of our public schools as subpar. Let that sink in. Families are leaving because of classes with 25 to 28 kids or more, because I learned tonight through the RS Payne PTO that teachers won't be funded to support after-school clubs like my daughter's, who's here tonight, math club, chess club. There's a Lego club at, I think, Paul Monroe, is that correct? Or we were trying to have one at RS Payne also. No teachers will be funded for that. So a teacher has to be there, but they'll have to volunteer to do that. And families are leaving. So declining enrollment is an indicator that we need to carefully assess why families are leaving and reinvest aggressively in those areas to better serve students and families. And guess what? The state's given us more money. We have an opportunity to do just that. Here's an example. The minimum state standards of quality allow for some classes of up to 35 students. But I was in one of those second grade classes last year with 28 kids. It's too many. And we have an opportunity here to do better than the minimum, better than the bare minimum. And when our city council members pretend that the bare minimum is sufficient, I know, and I think all of us know, that what they are endorsing is an educational system that is stratified by class, where those who can afford private education do, and those who cannot have to make do with underfunded public schools. And there is a real danger here of a vicious cycle where declining enrollment leads to decreased spending, which leads to even more of those issues I've just described. So the kids left behind in our schools will be the kids who have the most need of a rich educational and social emotional learning environment. So reducing the tax burden sounds great. We've all talked about that, but the tax benefit in this case would be a drop in the bucket. As so many have done, I ask you, City Council, to please heed the response that you hear tonight from LCS families and parents. We want strong investment in public schools more than we want performative tax relief. Particularly that when that tax relief comes at the expense of public education. There's no investment more important than public schools. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Now hear from a citizen regarding Lynchburg City's school budget, Kelly Knight, followed by Deidre Flavin and Gina Hask.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of City Council. My name is Kelly Knight, and I'm the parent of a rising kindergartner and second grader. I'm also a member of the Paul Monroe PTO and a proud graduate of EC Glass High School. I'm here tonight to express my strong opposition to the proposed plan to take back local taxpayer funds that were earmarked for our school. Our schools need full funding to address capital and operating needs. On the operating side, it is critical that the city provide the funding needed to give all Lynchburg City school staff well-deserved raises. Providing raises and offering competitive pay helps attract and retain talented teachers and support staff. Fair compensation acknowledges the hard work and dedication of educators and enhances morale among staff, strengthening the entire educational system. A decision by City Council to reduce the school funding would result in increased class size. Our son has thrived in the smaller class sizes currently offered at Paul Monroe Elementary. He has experienced a high level of individualized attention and developed close relationships with his teacher and fellow classmates. Studies have found that larger class sizes are associated with increased incidence of behavioral issues and disruptions in the classroom. Research also suggests that larger class sizes can lead to less individualized attention, leading to lower test scores and academic outcomes compared to students in smaller classes. As has been discussed, investing in our public schools will have a significant impact on long-term economic development in Lynchburg. Our schools are developing the workforce of tomorrow by equipping students with the knowledge and skills needed to thrive in the workplace. As we have been reminded of tonight, a well-educated workforce attracts new business to the region, encourages innovation, and drives economic growth. The proposed property tax cut will not impact the average citizen in a meaningful way. However, City Council can have an outsized impact on the entire community by fully funding our schools. I urge you to vote to fully fund our schools and support the educational needs of our community. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Now hear from Gina Hask. Or Deidre Flavin. Are you Deidre?
No, I'm Jenna Haskey.
Okay, great, sorry.
Okay.
Thank you.
And I'm here with EC Glass Athletic Boosters, so
Great.
hope I can get extra time. Hello, City Council members. My name is Jenna Haskey, parent of 4, 1 EC Glass alum, 2 current Glass students, and a younger daughter at Paul Monroe. I think I can speak for most LCS parents of multiple children, especially those raising several teens. We don't have a lot of time to follow the details and nuances of the school board and city council, but we do vote and we do talk to each other on the sidelines before and after games. We listen to the teachers involved in our students' lives, and we listen to our children. We show up and get involved and help as needed while caring for our jobs and families. Most of what I want to say has already been said. What I want to see is what most of us want to see: a fully funded school district, a unified plan that we can all support with a vision and pathway to move forward. Our teachers and administrators well supported and paid fairly, good stewardship of the taxpayer investment, our fields and buildings well taken care of, and our children's safety and overall health and well-being prioritized. And we want to see our leaders respecting one another and having reasonable debate and discussion, but unified in their vision and service for our children and their future. I want to highlight the things I've noticed this year that aren't costing you anything, to amplify that we as parents and caring citizens are doing our part. We're asking you to meet us where we are, just as the Beacon of Hope is a model for other cities. Lynchburg City Schools can be that model of hope for other school districts in Virginia and beyond. We're asking you to care. Some of the things I've witnessed just this year: our music teacher going above and beyond to plan a first ever Veterans Day ceremony and program to honor the family members of our students and teachers in a beautiful and meaningful way, bringing tears to local veterans' eyes as they are respectfully thanked and honored. A teacher visiting my daughter after a major surgery and reassuring us we've got her, and knowing and trusting that they will be looking out for her after I express worries about her strength and health returning to school. Coaches giving extra help on the weekends for children that want to be recruited to continue their athletic careers in college, keeping their dreams alive. Teachers driving 90 minutes after work in traffic to attend a playoff game to show their support and pride in their students. Parents supplying needed food and drinks for hungry athletes before and after games. Local businesses chipping in to offer discounts and donations when they can. A teacher treating her whole class to Chick-fil-A to celebrate the end of a hard year. One of the things I'm proudest of this year is the preseason stadium cleanup the lacrosse team did in March. 20 parents and every single member of the varsity lacrosse team, plus many JV players and girls, came and did a work day on a Saturday morning. This was with the thanks and encouragement of LCS facilities, who just don't have the resources and staff to do it all. They deep cleaned the bathrooms and concessions, took 6 loads to the dump, disassembled several metal goals, power washed the stadium, collected trash, recycled cardboard, pulled weeds, clipped vines, edged the fence line, potted flowers, removed banners, cleaned utility mats. After all of this, they came back 48 hours later after a full day of school and a day of practice and stayed to paint the blue stadium rails, which the boys did as a team in about 30 minutes. I hope this illustrates that we are doing our part to support our children in schools. Please do your part. Can we all agree that we have something special here? How can we grow this? I also want you all to know that I think Dr. Rule, our principal at Glass, has been a game changer and a miracle for EC Glass. This is the overall impression that the students, families, and teachers have. At least those that I've spoken with, which is many friends, teammates, and neighbors, and even an EC Glass mom who works at a checkout as a checker at Kroger, who saw my Glass shirt and enthusiastically went on and on to me after checkout about how happy she is with his leadership and what a difference he's made in the lives of her children. This was a total stranger. People know and feel in a tangible way his leadership. He has authority and also has a joy and passion for these children. People respect him. We need to make sure we are taking care of these leaders, giving them the resources and support they need to continue to be strong leaders. I asked my children and their friends at Glass to share a quote about their experience this year. Here's what they have to share. Every morning, Dr. Rule greets us with fist bumps and blasting music. He has a very positive energy. We love Dr. Rule. We love his energy and the relationships he has with students. He is enthusiastic and fun and inclusive to everyone. I like there are a lot of different opportunities and it's so diverse. I like my teachers. They take time to explain things so nothing is too overwhelming. I appreciate the support we get from our coaches. They remind us we are part of something special when we wear our uniforms. And from parents. My daughter is thriving. She wanted the big school experience. She almost never played sports and now she's on multiple varsity teams. Our hope is that we can give this experience to more families. And from another. We've been very pleased and grateful for the dedication, love, and support of all the faculty and staff at Glass. They are our family. I will end with this. You may or may not be aware that Dr. Rule gets on the PA system each morning, and after announcements, he tells the students, if no one else has told you today, I want you to know that Dr. Rule loves you. I can only imagine for many, this might be the only time they are told they're loved all week. Despite any political, religious, or philosophical differences we may have, I think we can all agree that love is the strongest and most powerful force in the world. We can also all agree that words have power and meaning. For a child to be told out loud that they are loved each day, especially when they're a hormonal, unpredictable, sleep-deprived, exhausted, or energetic, perhaps broken-hearted teenager, is tremendous. I encourage you all to look at his leadership style and use your own platforms and influence to serve the city in the same way. Lead with love, with authority and compassion and understanding and joy. You have the power to change lives, to bless our families or to stress our families. I will hope you will choose to invest in the overwhelming good that is happening and find joy in being a part of it. Thank you.
Thank you. Now hear from a group representative regarding stopping anti-Semitism in the Hill City, Jamie Maxwell from Stops Anti-Semitism. Please restate your name, group representative, and locality of residence. And after that, we'll hear from Dawn Wise and Maggie Millard, if you're here.
Good evening, council. I was going to come up here and talk about anti-Semitism. And then if you look behind me, when this council meeting started, I don't need to speak about anti-Semitism. They're here. The people who we need to support were here. Now, this is a marathon session tonight, and people had to leave. Madam Mayor, when you called for people to stand up and leave their seats, who stood up and left their seats? And then I want you to turn around when you looked right behind me. Just like on October 7th, they swooped in and took seats. How disrespectful and how shameful. Disrespectful and shameful. I wish they were here now. I would shame them right to their face. Hopefully they're watching this. What I find amazing, Madam Mayor, Council, we even entertain these people. I understand they have a First Amendment right. God's given it to them. I swore an oath to uphold that Constitution for them. I have families that sworn uphold that Constitution for them to come in here and preach their garbage. But when they swooped in, they took those spots. Pure disrespect. And that's what we would get out of them every single day. Almost up there with terrorism. I have a whole speech here that's going on with information from the Southern Poverty Law Center. I don't need it. They spoke for themselves tonight. These young people who get up here and speak, these woke leftists, they should be almost up there with hate groups. They should be up there with the neo-Nazis. They should be up there with the Ku Klux Klan for calling for the hatred and the disposal and the getting rid of and killing of the Jews. They are a hate group. Again, terrorists. And the fact that these people, who I believe some part of the queer town hall, are supporting Hamas, who would burn them in the streets in Palestine for being homosexual. They would burn them, throw them off the top of a building. But here they are holding their flag in pure ignorance. You know, I would stand up with them if they were going against the 67 countries that call homosexuality a crime. 10 of those countries, if you look it up, it's a death penalty to be a homosexual. They don't say anything about that. I guess it's not woke enough. I guess it doesn't get Facebook likes. These young people bash the city of Lynchburg. They bash our military. And I can tell you personally, I've witnessed it, what the city of Lynchburg has done for refugees in this city. Lynchburg's finest, chief sitting right back there, and the Lynchburg firefighters, the bravest, have responded to these people who are refugees and have gone out of their way to protect them and take care of them in any way they could possible. And the fact that these young people bash first responders, the local government, the military is shameful. If they really want to make a difference, they would raise their right hand and they would defend this Constitution. They bash our recruiters for going in and saying they're just going after the poor people. They didn't go after me, I volunteered. My family volunteered. I wanted to call on you all tonight for a resolution to support Israel. I know it's not going to happen. I can't follow up what my friend said here earlier about his family. These people who sat right behind me want to kill his family. We can't have that in this city. We can't have it. Zechariah 12, 8 and 9. Dr. Wilder, pretty sure you know what this is. In the day that shall the Lord defend the inhabitants of Jerusalem, and that he is feeble among them. And that day shall David, and the house of David shall be his God, and the angel of the Lord before them. And it shall come to pass that day that I will destroy all nations that come against Jerusalem. God bless Israel. God bless the Israeli people. And God bless the United States of America. Rangers, lead the way.
Thank you. I believe that Dawn Wise is not here. Is that correct? Oh, Dawn, you are here? Okay. We will now hear from a group representative regarding Lynchburg City School funding. Dawn Wise from Lynchburg City Schools Education Foundation.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor Reed, Vice Mayor Feraldi, and members of City Council. My name is Dawn Wise, and I am the Executive Director of the Lynchburg City Schools Education Foundation. I want to first speak a little bit about the Education Foundation, since many may have heard of us, but do not know exactly what we do. The foundation has been in existence for almost 40 years, having been founded in 1985, and is a strong, well-established 4-star rated charity on Charity Navigator, the world's largest and most trusted nonprofit evaluator, indicating it exceeds best practices and industry standards as it is lauded for its transparency and fiscal responsibility. The foundation is known for its many legacy programs, such as the class renovation grants, our Tools for Schools warehouse, scholarships, funds for students to go to early college, and our newest program, the Lynchburg Imagination Library. And we raise funds for these programs nearly $500,000 a year. Time to time, we receive requests to help fund different smaller initiatives in the school as well that are outside of our budgeted programs. And when we can, we pull these from our discretionary funds. To be clear, and many do not know this, the Education Foundation is a donor-supported, funded, nonprofit 501c3 and is a separate organization from the Lynchburg City Schools. It provides funds for various programs and initiatives within LCS that are above and beyond what public revenues allow. In fact, it is against our bylaws to supplant public revenues, our local and state citizens' tax dollars that go to public education. Put simply, the Education Foundation stands in the gap between that which the Lynchburg City Schools annual budget funds and what it cannot. But this year, that gap has become a canyon. Here is just a small list of some of the things that the Education Foundation has funded this year with our discretionary funds, because there was not enough money in the budget. We paid for transportation for career and technical education students to go to state and national competitions, welding kits and cosmetology fees for students who cannot afford to otherwise participate in these programs, lunches for counselors, social workers, and nurses during the respective appreciation weeks. And the aforementioned Lego League by Sarah Beck was actually funded by us. It was something that had been cut by the school budget, but we stepped in to take over because extended learning funds have been cut from $1 million to $200,000. For all schools. Our Safe Schools Lynchburg Committee, made up of community members and chaired by Rick Reed, helped come alongside the LCS administration to collectively raise and write grants for $600,000 for all schools to have bullet-resistant film placed on them. Another things that we funded, urine bags for students to use during lockdown, safety cones, tourniquet kits, a megaphone for crowd control, a new therapy room for Fort Hill Community School. And at the upcoming foundation board meeting next Wednesday, I will be bringing a request to pull $25,554 from our reserve funds to buy 4,000 books to meet new literacy mandates that came down from the state, but with no funding attached for middle schools. And yes, we are shopping local at Givens for that. And finally, my favorite request to lighten the mood was from another one of our middle schools that needed to help fund their annual Thanksgiving dinner. Now, lots of food donations come in, such as wonderful rolls from Texas Roadhouse. But what they could not include for free from Texas Roadhouse was their honey butter, which for the hundreds of family members and students attending would be a whopping $75. I was working with one of the Lynchburg City Schools administration on this one, and when that request first came in, we cracked up laughing. We even joked about making up mock t-shirts with the LCS logo and the tagline, "You think we've got honey butter money?" But at the end of the day, the foundation ended up sponsoring it, along with the rest of the money that was needed for the communal Thanksgiving dinner. Why? Because that dinner is part of family engagement, and there has been no money for family engagement because it has been cut. And because we believe in the restorative power of honey butter. Yes, all of these things, maybe not honey butter, should be in the school budget, and most have been in the past, but now they are not, because there is not enough money. I'll put that in quotes. Let me finally state the Education Foundation office shares the same office building of the LCS administration, and I have become very close to the day-to-day operations of each of the administration that works there. I have witnessed firsthand how each in their jobs are incredible stewards of the funds they are allocated each year. And I can also say, no matter what cuts happen, our administration will thrive, our students will thrive, our teachers will thrive, because it is in their heart to do whatever it takes to be there for our students and their families to help them succeed. There is not enough money, and I urge you not to take away any more. Thank you.
Thank you. Is Maggie Millard here to speak? No? Okay, well then our final speaker of the night is Lynchburg City School System, citizen speaking on Lynchburg City School System budget, Randy Trost.
Well, thank you. I don't know if I need to speak because everything has been said before me so eloquently. I will say that speaking as a member of Ward 1, I've said it before, Jeff, I've said it to you, Marty, I've said it to you, an investment in our schools is an investment in our city. It's clear we've had business leaders here tonight. We've had concerned citizens here tonight. I'm proud of the citizens of this community that have come out and taken the time to give us support for Lynchburg City School System. As you have invested in our safety, public safety, congratulations to Chief Zudema. He delivered some statistics earlier today that showed that your city council's investment in public safety is paying off, and well done. I'm asking for you to give that same courtesy, that same investment in our public school system. The investment is paying off. We have the Academic Restorative Academy. It is addressing the behavioral issues in our school system. The statistics, as you've learned in a joint school board city council meeting, show that it is working. Please continue to fund that program. Dr. Brown has done an excellent job with his colleagues of addressing behavioral issues in our classroom. And those behavioral issues go to the core of our education. They go to the academic achievement gap issue. They also go to the success and well-being of our staff. Along those lines, please continue to support additional pay for our teachers and our staff. If you take any time out of your day, I urge you to go and tour our schools, meet with those teachers, just observe them. The passion that our staff have for our students is unmatched. It will warm your heart to see the passion that the teachers and the staff have for those students. So finally, I urge you, don't defund our public education system. It is a pillar of a good community. It is a road, education is a road for those in poverty out of poverty. It can break a downward cycle. So thank you for that. time today. One last thing, I had the opportunity to go to Sandusky Middle School and read to some of our special students there. And I met a gentleman by the name of Lake. Lake, I got your message. I'm proud of you. Keep up the great work. Thank you. City council members, please keep up the good work. I appreciate your time, understand the time commitment it is, and I'm happy to hear that you guys are doing good work. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to general business. The next section is general business. This section includes. Oh, do we want to take a 5-minute recess? Okay, we're going to take a 5-minute recess for the obvious reasons. So we will come back at 9:35.
Lincoln, Sandusky, Perrymont, Richland Hills, Old Graves Mill, Winter. A bunch of different neighborhoods. Ward 3, what do you got?
All right, well, you,
No comment from them.
He's complaining.
okay. We don't have a quorum.
Yeah, we do. We have 4.
Oh, okay, great. Next section is general business. This section includes general items of new business. Consideration of adopting a resolution establishing the City of Lynchburg's VA 250 Local Committee LYH 250. This item was presented to council during our business item briefings on May 14th, 2024. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion, or do you want to speak to your motion? Want to speak to yours? Any discussion?
No, ma'am.
Okay, let's vote.
Councilmember Dolan?
Yes.
Councilmember Wilder?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Fraudy?
Yes.
Mayor Reed?
Yes.
The motion passes.
All right. Consideration of introducing a resolution amending the fiscal year 2024 city, federal, state aid fund and appropriating $164,914 for the purchase of an integrated ballistics identification system, or IBIS, and related National Integrated Ballistic Information Network, NIBIN, equipment for the Lynchburg Police Department. This item went to our Finance Committee earlier today, and I will defer to the chair of that committee, Vice Mayor Feraldi.
So moved, Madam Mayor.
Okay, this item does not require a second. Is there any discussion? Do you want to speak to me?
No, we did review it, and then everything looks in order, and hope everyone supports it.
Okay. Any further discussion? No? Okay, let's vote.
Councilmember Dolan? Yes. Councilmember Helgeson?
Yes.
Councilmember Mischins?
Yes.
Councilmember Taylor is absent still. Councilmember Wilder?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Fraudy?
Yes.
Mayor Reed?
Yes.
The motion passes.
Okay, second reading on the adoption of the fiscal year 2025 budget. Consideration of adopting resolution R2433 appropriating the fiscal year 2025 discretionary external service providers budget. May I have a motion on the resolution for the external service provider Virginia Legal Aid Society?
So moved.
Second.
All right, do you want to speak to your motion?
You know, we talked about it last time. Again, Legal Aid does some great work in our community. They help persons with homelessness or rental situations and other things. So they provide legal services that a person can't afford. Thank you.
Same.
Okay, any further discussion? Okay, let's vote.
Councilmember Dolan? Yes. Councilmember Helgeson?
No.
Councilmember Mischins?
No.
Councilmember Taylor?
Councilman Taylor, we're
Are you
voting
ready to
on the
vote?
funding for the Legal Aid Society. We're just calling your name right now.
Funding for Legal Aid?
Yes.
Yes.
Councilmember Wilder?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Fraudy?
Yes.
Mayor Reed?
Yes.
The motion passes.
Okay. Consideration of adopting resolution R2434 appropriating the fiscal year 2025 operating fund budgets for all other funds. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second? Okay, you want to speak to that?
No, we discussed it thoroughly at the last meeting. Thank you.
Okay. Councilman Dolan? Any further discussion? Okay, let's vote.
Councilmember Dolan? Yes. Councilmember Helgeson?
Yes.
Councilmember Mischins?
Yes.
Councilmember Taylor?
Yes.
Councilmember Wilder?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Fraudy?
No.
Mayor Reed?
Yes.
The motion passes.
Okay. Consideration of adopting resolution R2435, adopting the fiscal year 2025 to 2029 capital improvement program and appropriating the fiscal year 2025 capital budget. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, do you want to speak to that?
You know, we talked about several capital projects that are needed in our community. This is just a portion of them. You know, we got a list some time ago. Remember, Mr. Dr. About 2 years ago, they gave us a list of billions of dollars that are needed in our community. So this is a portion. So we looked at it strategically to see what we can do now, what we can afford now. So this is a portion of what we're doing now. Now, make sure our community understands there are several more needs than things that are needed in our community. This is a portion of what we can do, physically responsible to do right now. Thank you.
Okay, Councilman Dole?
I have nothing to add to that.
Okay, any further discussion? Okay, let's vote.
Councilmember Dolan?
Yes.
Councilmember Huddleston?
No.
Councilmember Mischins?
No.
Councilmember Taylor?
Yes.
Councilmember Wilder?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Faraldi?
Nope.
Mayor Reed?
Yes.
The motion passes.
Okay, the first reading on the adoption of the fiscal year 2025 schools operating budget. Consideration of introducing a resolution appropriating the fiscal year 2025 schools operating budget by major classification. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, Vice Mayor? Want to speak to it? No? Dr. Wilder? Okay, any discussion?
I'll speak to it.
I'll call on Councilman Mischins because I heard his voice first. Go ahead.
Yeah, first.
No.
I called on you first. Go ahead.
Okay, well, I would like to make a substitute motion to amend the classification funding on this resolution. And that substitute motion will amend the categories as follows. Instruction will be $77,658,521. Administration, attendance, and health will be $7,336,922. Transportation will be $6,599,342. Operations and maintenance will be $12,474,168. The food services and other non-instructional operations, I believe it is, will be $42,145. Facilities will be $25,210. Technology will be $5,143,115, and contingency reserves will be $1,642,897. I'll make that as a motion to amend the resolution with those figures.
Do you want to speak to your second? Or did you have anything to elaborate?
Sure. So the first thing I need to do is I've got to disclose that my wife is a Lynchburg City Schools teacher. She is a kindergarten teacher, and she's a member of a group of individuals that are Lynchburg City Schools teachers, and I can weigh in on this and vote on this impartially and objectively. So speaking to the motion, when you really start digging into the resolution that we were considering for us, you've also got to look at what did we do last year? Where are we at right now, right? And when you look at the amended budget, where we are right now, which is $75,900,000 for instruction, and we're actually about to potentially amend that to $77,563,000. If we don't amend these numbers as is, then we are actually going to defund instruction in Lynchburg City Schools. So we have to do it, unless, of course, we don't pass the contingency reserve move that we're getting ready to consider. So the contingency reserve change that we're getting ready to do will put instruction for the current fiscal year, the school year that's ending right now, at $77.5 million. The resolution that we're getting ready to vote on is $76,153,000. So it's actually a cut to instruction. Now, we did it last year. We did something historic. We categorically funded Lynchburg City Schools, and we increased instruction funding by 7.7%. Now, I am aware that there was a narrative going around that there was an attempt to cut $3 million out of the school budget. Well, let me tell you that there's no $3 million to cut out of the school budget based on what was here right now. So I don't know who told you we were going to cut $3 million out of the school budget, but I probably wouldn't listen to that person anymore. What we did last year was the largest classroom investment in the last 5 budgets, and probably since the Great Recession or beyond. Now, when you look at it historically, let's talk about previous investments in Lynchburg City Schools when you look at instruction. In 2020, there was a 2.4% increase in instruction funding. There was a 5.3% increase in administration. 21, there was a 0.3% increase in instruction. A 20% increase in administration. 2022, there was a 0.1% increase in instruction, going from $68.2 to $68.3 million. There was a 9.7% increase in administration. 2023, there was a 3.2% increase in instruction and a 16.5% increase in administration. And then last year, we increased instruction funding by 7.7% and decreased administration funding by 16.3%. Because, I'm sorry, kids don't learn in the central office. Today, I find out that before we even have a budget, they call for frontline elementary educator positions to be eliminated. Find that out today. And I see the superintendent back there shaking her head. Okay? Find that out today, right? But then when I look at what we were getting ready to do with this resolution as it stood was going to give more money to administration. Again. The resolution was going to give more money to administration. I'll be honest, I'm sick and tired of this shell game that's happening in Lynchburg City Schools. All you got to do is look at the budgets, right? Go back a little bit. Look at this one I'm looking at here is FY22. It gives you tremendous, extraordinary breakdown detail of where the money in instruction is going. Personnel services include salary, benefits. It talks about textbooks. It talks about instructional materials. All that stuff today is in a vacuum the way that this budget was presented to us. 8 pages, 4 sheets of paper. It's irresponsible. It is not worthy. It is not worthy of not getting tremendous scrutiny. So my natural response, you know what? We got to take more money out of administration because they're the ones that are failing our kids. And we got to put it in the schools in instruction. That's my response. It's a forcing function. And as the fiscal agent for Lynchburg City Schools, that's what we have the ability to do. We can do that. So what my amendment will do is it will add $1.5 million to the instruction budget over what was on the budget resolution as is. It will reduce administration by $830,000 on what was on that resolution, but you've got to also factor in that they try to give themselves an extra $400 and some odd thousand that just kind of slide it in there. Well, money's taken away from instruction. That's how they do things. And it would reduce technology by $384,000, but it still is an increase over last year. So technology would go from $4.9 million last year to $5.14 this year. And then it would reduce the amount that we put into the operating contingency reserve by about $290,000, which would bring us to $1.642 million in the contingency reserve. And the current amended budget where we sit today right now is $1.67 in that contingency reserve. We're getting ready to dump that in to instruction. It looks like, I'm pretty sure the votes are there. So what this does is it kind of puts us in the same position we are right now. The same position we're going to be after we vote on this contingency reserve categorical move in the next vote, the next agenda item. But it does it with 1.6 million still in the contingency reserve. And modest increase to technology, generous increase to instruction again. And then when the state funding comes, like we talked about in the second reading, we address what we do with the state funding. But at the end of the day, I am highly disappointed in a move to eliminate elementary positions that are frontline education positions that impact these kids. I'm tired of the shell game with Lynchburg City Schools. I'm tired of the 4-page budgets. Well, 8-page double-sided, 4-page double-sided. I'm tired of it. And we owe the kids more, and we owe the taxpayers more. And we got to rein in whatever the heck is going on with the money in Lynchburg City Schools and do it in a way where we don't leave our teachers and our kids behind. Thank you.
I'd like to speak to your second.
Yes, thank you. You know, it's interesting. We hear lots of things, and lots of people have said, oh, well, you're cutting funding for schools. And it's terrible what you are doing. You know, lots of people that are in the education world, you actually educate people, and you actually look at the numbers and the facts and see what actually happens. Or I guess it's more fun to just spout rhetoric that is untrue because it sounds better. You know, so when you're looking at the fact of what's happened over this budget year and my 20 years on council, I said we need to be looking out for our taxpayers. With that, this budget came up, and guess what happened? We had the very first meeting we had with the budget retreat, I said we need to make permanent reductions for our taxpayers. And with that, what happens is $8 million of this surplus goes out the window to pay for a new amphitheater. You look at the elements of what we could have actually done, whether it be real estate taxes or whether we could have lowered the car taxes. We said, hey, let's figure out ways. The budget actually grew. I know we heard lots of people say, oh, because we set the tax rate at 89 cents last year, the budget was gutted. We got like 13 million more than last year in the city budget, in the general fund. It's grown by 6%. With that, we can actually do both things. We can walk and chew gum. We can have a balanced budget. We can think about our taxpayers simultaneously and making sure we have good city services. With this, just recently, well, actually probably about another 3 months ago when we had a joint meeting with the school board, I said, it's not going to be 67 million from the state as presented in our budget. The state is going to give a whole lot more than 67 million. I said that 4 months ago. Guess what it is now? $74 to $76 million more. Let's do the math on that one. 67, 68, 69, 70, you get the hang of it. We're getting up to $8 to $9 million more from state funding. Now I'm hearing people say, oh, you're slashing funding. You know, it's a tool that has been sadly used by administration for a long time. You know, we heard some people say that teachers didn't have paper, they didn't have pencils, they didn't have notebooks. You know, on a budget that is $110 million a year in operating, I think they can afford pencils. I think they can afford paper. I think they can afford notebooks, but what happens? It doesn't generate any jizz and work up teachers because they're the ones who actually are doing the budget. Why out of $110 million do teachers have to buy new, I talked to a teacher just a few days ago, said they had to buy tons of Kleenex. They're at the Dollar Tree, buying Kleenex all the time. They're buying pencils. Why? Out of a budget of $110 million a year in operating budget, you can't give our teachers the tools? what happens is, and I get it. It's lots of people mean well, but we have administration that does these shell games, and they've done it for years. It's always like saying, oh, if we cut taxes, what's going to happen? You're going to cut the school crossing guard. Nobody likes that. That's an easy fix. Fund the school crossing guard. It's an easy fix. Fund the paper, fund the pencils, fund these things, and quit using this as a tool. As this resolution that is before us today, it actually gives even more to instruction. Because I teach. I know what it's like to teach. I know what it's like to actually have to give up my own stuff to buy my kids calculators. I know what it's like when I drive down to their games when they're in the NCAA tournament down at Duke. I do that on my own because I love my kids. I care about them, and I so greatly appreciate the teachers. But we're hearing this dichotomy that isn't there. I've supported the teachers. The problem is the administrative bloat that has happened. When they're using these things that are actually not true. That's why I look at these numbers. I look at these figures. That's why when I look and see with our city budget, what was presented is $67 million. And they're saying, oh, we got to do X, Y, and Z. I said absolutely not, because the state's going to be pitching in a lot more. And what's happened? It's closer to $76 million, or probably over $76 million that's coming from the state. Schools are funded locally and everywhere in Virginia, part from the city, from the municipality, and part from the state. When the state contributes more, that means it takes the pressure off our local taxpayers. It doesn't mean that, oh, you just get whatever you want. I wish they would have presented this in a budget when they were first presented in that 8-page document that would have showed the numbers that I knew. I'm not on the school board. I'm not in school administration. I knew the fact that these numbers were not correct. I knew there's going to be millions more, and sure enough, $7 to $9 million more. Now with this resolution doesn't lower the funding. I think it would have been a good thing if we could have, instead of just spending the extra $9 million, which I guess will come up in our second reading, this resolution now at least says we're going to make sure that there's more in instruction, $1.5 million more in instruction, about $1 million less in administration. I think that makes sense. I think what we can look at this, and I look at the numbers, and again, I was taking notes as people were talking. I hear these numbers. We have this budget, if it goes through as the state funds and city funds, it'll, instead of being $109 million, $110 million, it'll be $117 million annual operating budget to educate 7,300 kids. I hear people say, you're defunding, or you need to fully fund. What is fully funding? $120 million a year in operating? We have 1,500 employees at the school division and about 7,300 kids. I've heard numbers saying, oh, there's 35 people in a classroom. Do the math on that one. 7,300 students, 1,500 employees. My math is somewhere 4 to 5 people, adults, per child. Now, how they are putting them in the classroom, that isn't city council. That isn't the school board. That is the administration. And I guess if the school board would dig in a little deeper. When I look at these items and say, ugh, and if we recommend having some kind of tax relief to our taxpayers, because they've paid more year after year after year. If we look at the fact that we can actually give something back and run the school system. Because, when I look at the schools, and I was at graduation just Saturday, I had lots of friends that had their kids graduate at LCA. And it was interesting to see, because I've looked at these numbers, we have about 40% of our school-age population, their parents have had to pay their taxes, and they have to send them to private school. I look at that and I think, oh my goodness. Years ago, it used to be probably about 95% of all kids in Lynchburg went to the city schools. Something's happened where things have changed. And with that, that should wake people up to say, maybe it's not as good of a product as we used to think. When I got on city council a long time ago, I remembered EC Glass. They had signs out there, top 10% in the country. You look at Zillow today, it's a 2. Yeah, don't say that because that's not a good thing. Sad. What have we done for the last 20 years? Have we given less money to the schools? We've given a whole lot more, in spite of the fact that the parents are sending their kids elsewhere. They're having to pay to homeschool them, or they're having to pay to send them to a private school or send them to the county schools. So when we're looking at these numbers, the budget, the number of kids have continuously declined, but yet the money is still going up. Even in this budget, when I heard people say you're defunding schools, you're all of these things, which are categorically untrue. With this, we are giving more to education than last year. The state is funding a whole lot more, and I get it. Some people just say, well, what's the city giving? What's the state giving? They never look at the whole picture of it takes both buckets to fund education. With that, this doesn't look at that because those numbers still haven't come, have they, Greg? The Virginia Department of Education, even though we're pretty close to knowing what those are, it's going to be anywhere from, instead of 67 million, it's going to be either 74 or 76 million, most likely 76 based on the ADM that was given. 76 million, again, it's about 9 million difference. With this resolution, what it does is says we're giving more to instruction. Now, it's got to come from somewhere. It's coming from, as Councilmember Mischin said, it's coming from administration. So I do hope that you support this amended motion. And I guess in 2 weeks, when we come back for the second reading, we'll actually look at these numbers on this resolution, that the 68 million from the state is nowhere close to what it is. Earlier this afternoon, I argued for tax reductions, and the majority of council said no. So I'm not going to make that motion again tonight, recognizing that it's going to fail. But hopefully this is something that you can still work with because it amends the allocation and puts more in the classroom and less in administration. We heard that from several of the people in their reports, that they said, here's what you can do. One of those items specifically, give less to the downtown office and more to the classroom and instruction, and this does it. I hope you'll support it.
Dr. Wilder, where you went to? Yes, Vice Mayor Faraldi.
Yes or no? Did they run these numbers by you?
So as a point of clarity about what's...
Hey, Greg. Yes or no? Did they run these numbers by you?
Schools, did they run the numbers in the ordinance?
Did they run these numbers by you? Yes or no?
No.
Thank you.
Do you have these numbers?
Dr. Wilder.
Oh, hold.
Do you have these numbers?
I haven't recognized you. Dr. Wilder.
You might want to.
I haven't recognized you. Dr. Wilder.
Opportunity to answer that.
Okay, all right. Good. I do not support the substitute motion. I support the original motion. I look at, I'm so thankful for all the persons who came and spoke. I appreciate that, especially the ones who talked about how much they give in Roanoke or in Charlottesville and how much less you give in Lynchburg. That shows you a sign right there. I trust our school system. I trust the school board. When we get to the point of categorizing too many things and telling them how to do that, how to pigeonhole them, I look at the budget, and the majority of the budget goes to the police department, public safety, not to our schools. So we don't do the same thing for our police, our public safety department. So I don't quite understand all that. I question that. I just think we need to, the more I say, I think the longer we're going to be here tonight. But again, my kids are already eating, so I'm okay for a little while. But I might get tired. I might have to fall asleep for a minute. But again, I just think we need to support the original motion and continue moving forward. We have debated, when it comes down to the school system, we debated, because people understand the value of an education. They understood the value of when they didn't allow people to read or go to school or get an education, they understood why. So now we see the value of an education. And I try to tell my kids, you've got to get your education because they understand the value of an education. Thank you.
I'd like to call up Dr. Edwards and anyone else from her, if you are willing to. I know. I mean, if you'd like to. And while you're coming up here, I feel like I'm living in the Twilight Zone right now. I'm just going to say it. Like, we're talking about playing games. How many times have we heard so many things said from people up here like they're the experts that have been wrong, misrepresented completely in emails, statements, all kinds of things that have been sent out that have then been quoted back and then argued like they came from somewhere else, including statements made tonight. Where did the $2.8 million, almost $3 million come from? From emails from people on this council. First of all, laptops with bullet holes in them and all kinds of crazy things have come from this council that have been completely misrepresented, that people have spent tons of time investigating that were not what they seemed. And I mean, earlier, the phrase taking the red off of people's candy cane, I mean, Councilman Helgeson has made it so half the people in our city are going to hate the amphitheater.
Point of order.
No, I'm not. I'm
Point of order.
speaking.
You don't get a say.
What's your point of order,
The mayor is violating the rules of procedure in the way she's insulting Councilman Helgeson.
So, from my opinion, my perspective, I don't think there's an insult. I think she's commenting on.
I think that's up to Councilman Helgeson if he feels insulted over what she said.
Well, it's up to the presiding officer, and then it's subject to appeal. But in my opinion, I don't think there's been any violation of the rules of procedure.
No, you never quoted that.
I will restate my comments.
Well, the point of order wasn't ruled on yet, Madam Mayor. Were you insulting Councilman Helgeson or were you not, Madam Mayor?
I was not insulting him. I was making a statement. I will rephrase my statement. The way that the amphitheater has been portrayed by members of council has made it seem like it's going to be a horrible thing for our city, even though we've already broken ground on it. We can't go backwards now. And to continuously bring up something that has already passed, already broken ground, and make it seem like it's something terrible for our city is unfair to those who want to celebrate it. And now we're talking about school funding, bringing up things that none of us can sit up here and fact check, making it look like the schools are lying, again, which that accusation has come several times, to then we get emails back that have corrections that then show, in fact, they weren't lying. Maybe the full details of what they were accused of then are clarified. So we're made to believe administration is lying about something, a big, huge, major accusation and statement is made, then we get emails back, and then many times it's clarified, and then we realize it wasn't, in fact, what it seemed, in some cases. So I would like to know, since a big accusation has been made, and you did shake your head to make me assume that possibly some statements were made that aren't what they seem, if you would like to speak to anything that has been said so far, I think you have the right to do that on statements that have been made. Dr. Edwards.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to stand before you at 10 o'clock at night and speak to some of the statements that have been made. I will start with some things that we have done positively over the last 3 years fact check me. 3 years ago, there was a 3% staff raise, correct? Last year, there was a 5% staff raise and another 5% staff raise this year, along with a 2%. So that's a 3, 5, 5, and 2% staff increase that has happened over the last couple years, all in a row, not like at the beginning when we had the biennium, you had 3% over 2 years. We actually did that for our staff, all of our staff, the instructional staff, the teachers. We actually raised the minimum for our hourly bus drivers. The minimum is $15 an hour. When I started, it was somewhere around $9. It has gone up. We have done that every single year for the last 5 years, increasing our lower wage employees. It's not where it should be, because I think you're looking at $23 an hour. What were you looking at for your starting wage?
Starting for CDL, it's over 20.
It's over 20, right? It's over 20. $15 is where we are with our staff. We have done that. Nobody says, well, how? How? How have you done that? Where did that money come from? What did you do? You know what we did? We took instructional people and we moved them out of the operating budget and put them in the CARES budget. We didn't want to do it, but everybody was getting a raise. Everybody was going up while we were being told you got to stay at level funding. 85%, 80 to 85% of our budget is people. So when you say level funding, we're talking people. I can't cut stuff. So we put people in CARES. So when you start to count the operating budget instructional dollars, how many instructional dollars are you not counting that are also in the CARES budget for people that we have to move back to instruction? And you all were on the board or on the council when I did this a couple years ago, did not want to do this, and we said this is a stopgap method. This is not sustainable when we first received CARES, and at that time, we didn't know how CARES was gonna go. And we were allowed to move people to save jobs, so we did. Last year, when we wanted to do 1550, we ended up doing 1547. So all of our classified staff, we raised the minimum to $15 an hour. Now, if you were making 11, 12, 13, and all that went up to 15, it went all the way down the line so that people who are making 14 now also make a little bit more. So we fixed those pay schedules. Where do we get the extra money to do that? Well, last year we had to move all of our secretarial staff to CARES. So when you're looking at the numbers and you're deciding, where the money is in instruction in the operating budget and why it looks like it goes down or why it looks like it hasn't increased, you're not counting the actual people who are in our CARES budget. Now, we are at the point where we've got to come back to CARES. Now, notice I am not talking about the virtual academy, and I'm not talking about LCS Restore right now. Those are additional things that we added because behavior needed to be addressed. And at the time, we needed to have a virtual program, which we kept because when we came back full time, parents still wanted the virtual program. And every child by name and by needed, you've heard my families come up here and say, virtual is what we need and our kids are thriving. So I'm not talking about them. I'm talking about regular teachers and regular secretaries who were always in the operating budget. And over the years where we have said, yes, and we all know that when the state says there's a 3% raise, they are not giving 100% of the money to us to pay that raise. It is about 33%, and we have to come up with the 67% to give everybody else the same 3% raise. 3% is what the city's getting, right? They don't have that struggle that we have to find the other money. Where do we find the money from? We had to do it in CARES the last couple years. We knew we would get here. Actually, last year is when I'm like, hey, we've got to start getting back on track. I asked for it last year. Somebody said, you asked me, why didn't I just ask for the whole kit and caboodle? I've been asking for a little bit, and a little bit, so that I wouldn't get here and say, can I have $12 million? Because that's not fiscally responsible. And for the last 3 years, the answer has been no, no. We're going to stick with level, we're going to stick with level, we're going to stick with level. At some point, level stops working, because the only way level's going to work for my staff is to say, if the governor, the General Assembly, or anybody else comes out and says, we want to give you an 8% raise, 67% of what that takes has got to come from LCS. We don't generate revenue. We're asking for your support on that. Or I've got to cut people to give other people raises. I have to cut folks to give other folks raises. You're not doing it. You're not doing it. But that's where I am. So we can go back and look at the staff that are in the CARES budget that we would like to bring back. And please, when you say administration and central office, let's stop misleading the people out there thinking that the administration category 100% only includes the folks who are in central office, the folks who are in personnel, finance, and HR, and the superintendent's office and communications. The whole category also has attendance. Guess where? I don't have any students in my building that I need to take attendance for. Those attendance people, when you cut the admin budget, those attendance people and their raises and their benefits are also in that budget. And guess where they are? In the very schools that you want to support. So let me help you look at the numbers in a better way to help you accomplish your goals if you want to support the schools. And health, all of our nurses, the health category is also in that administrative budget. And where are our nurses? In the schools. We have said that, we have tried to communicate that, yet the narrative is that the administration category is just downtown central office. That is not true. That is not true. So we need to stop saying that, and we need to recognize that the attendance and health are also in the administration category. The numbers. When we create a budget, at least every year that I've been here, unless something different has happened, it's always based on the governor's budget, because I usually have to give you a number somewhere in January or February. So if you're unhappy that what we came up with in January and February was based on the governor's budget, and that this crystal ball should have known that it was going to be $74 million or whatever it is right now, I'm sorry. I can only give you a number based on what is available in January when we start preparing our budget. And last year, we got happy because we knew the budget was going to be higher. So we thought, oh, we'll be able to once again tighten our belts and kind of get the local match and the rest of the raise from whatever is extra. And we planned it that way, just what you're saying up here. And then we got to September when it was like, oh, by the way, what we gave you, 3.7 million of what we gave you that you think you can use to support your staff is only for all in. You cannot use that money. You have to use that money for all in. So we had to do something different. All right, so if you're wondering why I'm not taking the $9 million that everybody knows is going to be somewhere up there and redoing the budget based on what I think is going to happen, I'd rather wait until we actually have the numbers so that we can give the budget that actually exists. And at the time that we developed the first budget, the only thing that exists is the governor's budget. So that's why we have done it that way, and we continue to do it that way with that. We recognize, and we have always come back to you at every single year, because despite even the best planning, every year we submit what we think we're going to get from the state. It's always different. It's always different, and we always come back to you and we work it out. It has never been exactly what we have been given at the time when they do all of their deliberations. And that's what we were going to continue to do, just work with you all once we get the final numbers. Now, in the past, before COVID, we actually had these numbers early. The state actually finished a little bit earlier. These last couple of years, man, are they taking us into June. And do I like that? No. My teachers are almost done. I'd love to give them a contract. But I'm holding on right now. As far as the cuts, oh, I'm going to answer all the questions. I see ya. As far as the cuts, and what did you say? As early as today, you found out. I beg you to go back to the joint meeting. There is a slide in the joint meeting, which was in March, that outlines division cuts, school level cuts, and then my request, which the board changed to 43.7, but it included division cuts and 5%, or roughly 5% of school-based cuts that were spoken about in March. It is not today that we talked about there may be some potential cuts. So again, just correcting the record, anybody can go back to our joint meeting and look at our slide. You will see where we're saying this is how we can balance the budget, because we've already been making some cuts already. So what we would like to do when we get the final numbers is give you everybody outside of CARES, because there's not going to be any more CARES, so you can actually see all the instructional people who are helping our children, the instructional aides, the bus drivers, everybody. And you can see where the money goes. So then you don't have to assume that we're doing something. I think the word was shell game. We're not doing a shell game. We're not doing a shell game. Okay, thank you.
Madam Mayor, I felt it appropriate. Dr. Edwards, I have been critical of your leadership in the school division on many occasions. I must commend you for your robust and thorough reply, and I thank you for it. And I believe it is convicting, straightforward, and to the point. Thank you.
Anybody want to speak that hasn't spoken yet? Have any questions? Councilman Taylor, did you have anything you wanted to offer?
No.
No? Councilman Mitchins?
Do you have those numbers?
Yes, I'm sorry, I misunderstood the question. I thought the Vice Mayor was asking if the schools had sent the numbers that were in the ordinances in the agenda packet. I think the question was, had I seen the numbers that Councilman Mischins was speaking to? The answer was yes. He sent them to me in an email a couple hours ago.
So
For the record, I haven't seen any numbers, so.
I appreciate your response, because your response has generated a plethora of questions for me. How many salaries in the central office are tied up in the instruction category?
The people who do instruction, so my C&I department,
How many
their
people are in that?
instruction. Oh God, I don't know off the top of my head how many there are. I can
More than
give you-
10, less than 10?
Yeah, more than 10. I mean, I have a whole staff of C&I folks who work with student services. That whole department
How many
is
people
combined.
work in the central office?
Combined, there's about 60 people in that building that work
Any
there.
people work remotely that don't work in the central office but are full-time employees in Lynchburg City Schools?
Not to my knowledge. We don't have people working remotely, full-time.
The current budget is proposed, and I know that there's mixed opinions on this either way. Does it include the Restore Academy?
Which budget? Are
The
you,
current, where we're headed, where you're headed right now, as this was proposed, as this was given to us, we were to just vote on, and whatever the city manager said, this is what we're going to vote on. Does that include the Restore Academy?
The budget that we asked you for did include the Restorative Academy. If you're asking me what my school board approved, that we brought forth to you all, that we
That you asked
discussed
for.
with you at the joint meeting, that was the budget that the school board voted on. That did include the Restorative Academy,
How much does that cost you a year?
about 1.2 million. But,
Did that exist-
hold on,
did
hold
that
on, hold on.
exist- did that
'cause
exist prior to CARES?
I cannot tell a lie. 1.2 million, of which we have other grants that we got on our own that are also tied to the Restore Academy. So the Restore Academy costs more than that. There are grants that we have that aren't operating dollars and they aren't CARES funding that are also tied to the Restorative Academy that connect with this particular program.
Did that exist prior to the CARES funding?
Oh, no, we did not apply for those grants, but we heard our teachers say, behavior, we need help.
I hear teachers that say they can't get kids in it.
You know what? I'm glad you said that, because you know what LCS Restore is? It's a pilot program. You know what that means? We started with just a few classrooms to see if it worked. We are fiscally responsible. We didn't spend a whole bunch of money and bring in somebody for every single grade level and just beef this thing up without data. We started small and said, let us see. We started with our suspension center, waited, got some data on that. Then we added our LCS Restore program. Our elementary program doesn't even take every single elementary grade right now because we wanted to put something in, analyze it, see if it's worth the money. Does it do the things that we think it can do? And then we have a case to grow the program rather than spending the money up front.
You mentioned the cuts that were presented in the joint meeting in March.
I'm sorry, say that one
You
more.
mentioned the cuts that were presented in the joint meeting in March.
Yes.
Was that your quote-unquote reduction in force plan? Is that what that was, the RIF plan, so to speak?
When we talked about how we were going to balance that budget,
Yeah.
I believe the number was 17 point something million, and we talked about what led to that and then how we were helping ourselves before we even got to you all in terms of balancing that budget and making sure that we could.
So that what you're talking about included a RIF plan, a reduction in force plan?
Yes, part of it was reduction in force. Part of it was some of those cuts we've already made with the virtual academy. But to be honest, the virtual academy was something that started with CARES funding. We honestly thought it would be the year that we had the virtual learning and that the next year no one would want it, but it was a good program. Our parents loved it. Our kids thrived in it. So we kept it. But we also knew that there's a possibility that we may not have funding for this, and we would get to this year and have to make the tough decisions.
So that would be a program elimination rather than a reduction in force, is that right? Like you eliminated a program?
Correct.
in the
But
program.
some of those staff that were in the virtual academy were staff that we previously were in our classrooms and went there.
Why are positional cuts being carried out if there's a reduction in force plan?
Excuse me?
Why are positional cuts being carried out outside of the reduction in force plan?
What do you mean, why are
So
position?
reduction in force plan, typically don't you consider the entire system and the seniority of the people that are working?
You cut everywhere where you can in the reduction in
And
force
then-
plan when you're in
Yeah,
education.
But you consider the whole.
Yeah, we started
Yeah.
we started at the district level, so we had the first $9 million
And then-
coming from the
But position
district.
cuts are being carried out in the individual schools right now?
They may be, yes. And
They
here's before we put some spin on that, let me help you with
Not
this.
putting any spin on it.
Okay.
Position
So
cuts,
we
position
have, the general public can follow me on this one. We have an 8-period day, people, right now. We have an 8-period day because we do an A block and a B block. We are going to a 7-period day next year. So think about that. 8-period day, you need a teacher for all 8 periods. 7-period day, you need a teacher for all 7 periods. So there may be some natural reductions that come from that collapse. Now, what happens if we weren't fully staffed, if we were down a math teacher that we desperately needed, and we have been advertising, that may be a position that we actually cut. But there are other reductions in force, other cuts that we made, not just this year, but we made them last year as well. We cut our communications department last year. We had to move people into different jobs that just because we didn't have enough in administration last year. So we're doing the same thing this year. We have had conversations with folks about just reduction in force. But what we've tried to do with our people to be the kind thing, because we have some vacancies, right? You've seen our vacancies. And of late, we've had resignations. So we're moving folks into those positions if they are qualified to do them.
When you came to work here, how many deputy superintendents did you have?
2
Positions or people?
2 positions. I had 2 assistant superintendents. I had Ben Copeland, who was in operations, and I had John McLean, who was in instruction. And you know what else I had? I had a whole department in curriculum instruction. I had Mike Rudder. I had a whole field team of folks that we did not have over the last couple years.
So what's your, getting down to the brass tacks of this, is that there was a tremendous overextension in the CARES funding. I mean, is that what it comes down to?
Those would be your words. You want my words. There was a way to give my staff the salary that they deserved. My school board felt committed to making sure that Lynchburg City School staff, if it was a 3%, we could do a 3. If it was a 5, we could do a 5. And we were very transparent about that. We didn't lie. We didn't hide it. We didn't shell game it. This is what we did to give our staff those increases.
But it's confusing to me, because when you actually look at what was spent, what you're saying doesn't line up. Because when you look at, for example, what was actually spent in 2019, there was $44.8 million in personnel services and instruction. And then
In
when
the
you
operating
keep going
budget
and you
or
march
in
it
the-
out,
in-
instruction stays essentially
in the
flat. The salaries and
operating
instruction stay
budget
flat.
in-
And now those details of the budget that give you personnel services, employee benefits, purchase services, internal services, other charges, materials and supplies, tuition payments, joint operations, and capital outlay, we can't even see it anymore.
What do you mean you can't?
It's not there.
We have it.
We're not provided it.
We have it. But
Okay, then why aren't we getting all that information?
You can have whatever information you want in our budget. This is actually, the budget that we submitted to you this year is similar to the structure that we gave you last year. So I don't have a problem giving you that. There's nothing to hide. But once again, just for the general public who's still up this late at night, if you're counting just the operating budget, and you want to lead the people to believe that the only instruction, the only place where we have instruction is in our operating budget, that is not true. We have instruction in the CARES budget as well, because we put people in the CARES budget. And because when we were giving increases to keep up with neighboring divisions and everybody else, that's where we put them.
So how many more full-time employees work for Lynchburg City Schools, or worked for Lynchburg City Schools at the beginning of this year than prior to CARES funding?
How many worked at the beginning of this year? and
How
prior
many
to?
full-time employees worked for Lynchburg City Schools prior to the first drop of CARES funding and at the beginning of this school year that we're ending right now?
I have to go and look those numbers up. I'm not going to make something up and give it to you right here.
More than
standing
10?
Council,
More than 100?
council.
I mean, I'm curious. I'm very curious about that question.
I get that you're curious, and I know that when I write the answer to that in a nice little letter that has all the facts and I give it to the city manager, it will be published for everybody else who's curious. But what I am is an educator, and I'm not going to let you get me to give you numbers when I'm standing up here with a bottle of water and I don't have the factual information in front of me. And I think what you want is the factual information.
That's what I want.
So allow me the courtesy of giving you what you want, the professional courtesy to say, yes, go back and give us the data like you always do, Dr. Edwards, when you answer our questions.
Council Missions, she's answered the questions that you brought up earlier in your accusations, and I'd like to move on to Dr. Wilder so we can go ahead and wrap things up. Did you want to say something? Yeah, we do need to close it down.
I've had enough questions.
So unless someone else who hasn't spoken yet has a
good.
question, then thank you, Dr. Edwards, for your time. And the substitute motion's on the floor with a lot of numbers I can't regurgitate. So,
I can regurgitate it if you need me to.
well, you wanted to move $1.15 million from admin into instruction as the basic synopsis of that. So let's go ahead and vote on the substitute motion.
No, that's not, what you just said is not even remotely close to accurate. I'll read the numbers off to you so you got them. The numbers are, instruction moves from 76.2 to 77.7. I'm giving you round numbers. Alicia has the actual numbers. So does Greg. The budget resolution shows 8.1 for administration. That gets dropped to 7.3, and 7.7 is where we currently stand. Transportation's the same, ops and maintenance is the same. Food service and others the same, facilities is the same. Technology gets an increase to from 4.9 in the amended budget to 5.1. And then there's 290,000 taken from contingency reserve and moved to instruction. So what we're doing is we're moving 290 from contingency reserve, 385 from technology, and 830 from administration into instruction for a total of 1.5 million into instruction.
Okay, so let's vote on that.
Councilmember Dolan? No. Councilmember Helgeson?
Yes.
Councilmember Missions?
Yes.
Councilmember Taylor?
No.
Councilmember Wilder?
No.
Vice Mayor Faraldi?
No.
Mayor Reed?
No.
The motion fails.
Okay, so we'll go back to the original motion, which was consideration of introducing a resolution appropriating the fiscal year 2025 schools operating budget by a major classification, which we already had a motion and second on, so let's vote on that,
I'd
please.
like to speak to that motion. I haven't had an opportunity to speak to that motion yet, Madam Mayor.
Go ahead.
So as it stands, the budget resolution right now that we're voting on has a total of $76,153,498 categorically funded to instruction, which is a slight, actually it's less than what we're getting ready to vote on when we move the contingency reserve. So since what we would be doing on voting on this resolution right here is actually defunding instruction in Lynchburg City Schools, because I'm certain that this next thing is going to pass as a second reading, I can't support this motion as it stands because it provides less instructional funding to Lynchburg City Schools than what we're getting ready to do.
Okay, let's vote.
Councilmember Dolan? Yes. Councilmember Helgeson?
No.
Councilmember Missions?
No.
Councilmember Taylor?
Yes.
Councilmember Wilder?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Faraldi?
Yes.
Mayor Reed?
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, we'll move on to the second reading, consideration of adopting resolution R24038, amending Lynchburg City Schools major classification funding for fiscal year 2024 and transferring $1,671,820 from contingency reserves to instruction. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second? Okay. Do you want to speak to that?
The only thing, from the last conversation, we had a lot of dialogue about this at the last meeting, and Dr. Edwards said that it is needed. It is not. It's for the 2024 budget, and they need to shore it up.
Okay. Dr. Wilder?
No other comments, thank you.
Any other discussion? Okay, let's vote.
Councilmember Dolan?
Yes.
Councilmember Helgeson?
No.
Councilmember Missions?
Nope.
Councilmember Taylor?
Yes.
Councilmember Wilder?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Faraldi?
Yes.
Mayor Reed?
Yes.
The motion passes.
Okay, and now we will address the curfew resolution that was added earlier tonight. The curfew extension that would be adding a 6-month addition or extending it through January 1st, from June 1st to January 1st. Chief Zudema, do you want to speak to that? Yeah, go ahead.
I won't repeat everything I said before out of the convenience of time. As again, we recommend extending the citywide youth curfew through January 1st, 2025. I won't repeat the data I've shared with you, but other than we've, on average, 4 people a month over the last year have been charged with that. We believe it's being effective. One of the tools that's effective in helping us reduce crime in the community, and as well as making sure that our juveniles in the community are not just worried on the perpetrator side, but also worried about them becoming victims of crime as well. So I'd answer any questions you may have.
Any questions from council? Do I have a motion to extend the resolution, to extend the curfew?
Madam Mayor. Motion to deny.
Second.
Okay, do you want to speak to your motion to deny?
I think We've had it for what, a year now? Am I right? I just don't see the need to necessarily continue to extend the violation of the civil liberties, and I think we just need to unleash our police department to find the dangerous criminals in our city and lock them up. That's where I stand.
Okay, Councilman Helgeson?
Yeah, when we first passed this as a 6-month resolution, I think it was very effective at first. We got the reports that happened each month, and the last reports that I got, I don't know if there were any on that report. I mean, there was it started out pretty strong, and then it's gone to like almost zeros. And I appreciate having the tool, and I was glad to support it when we did for those 6 months with the sunset. It's just, I think now it's been a year. Each report that I get each month, it looks like, I think either you or somebody sends it, where it's how many juveniles were discussed with this, or tickets, and month after month it's been at zero. So I think it was a good thing at first, because I think it made it got people saying, hey, especially for juveniles that are not to be out, and it was effective. There's a time in everything that it's like Ecclesiastes tells us, a time to be born, a time to die. And I think this was a good time when we had it, and I think now it's a good time to terminate it. And then the thing is, if those numbers change, we can always resurrect it. So month after month that I've seen the zeros are why I support not continuing this.
Anybody want to contribute to this conversation on denying? Dr. Wilder?
I do not support the motion. I support the recommendation of our police department. You know, again, it's another tool in our toolkit. So we're just looking for tools, whether it's housing or policing or whatever. We're looking for tools in our toolkit that continue to help make our community safer, help our community be better. So I support our police department. Thank you.
Councilman Taylor?
I also support our police department and the curfew. Lots of citizens. I talk to people every day. I don't live in a shell. I'm out here on the streets with the citizens. They come up to me and say, thank you, Mr. Taylor, for what you have done for this city. The curfew, thank you for it. So I'm gonna be voting for it.
Chief Zuma, I know that when we enacted the curfew last year, it was right after we had 3 youth deaths. I know we are still, 2 of those 3 cases are still unsolved. And I know that the community in which most of those children lived were the biggest supporters of this curfew, and still are. And that part of the city is the section of the city that I believe we still have kind of the highest crime rate in. Would you agree? Where those children lived. And I also believe that you told us last summer that nationally this summer has the highest crime rate in any city. Is that also still true? Typically.
Anecdotally.
See an increase in crime, I guess, an increase in crime in the summer months, correct?
Correct.
And that you had predicted that you also typically see a decrease in crime in the winter months in youth. Traditionally. That was one of the reasons we looked at extending it, to kind of look at the data here locally to see if there was those trends, correct?
Correct.
And here we are going into the summer again. And to end the curfew going into the summer, knowing that the trends tend to go up in the summer months, specifically with youth crime, I think would be putting our city in an unnecessary risk.
Can you just elaborate one more time, just so I'm clear on your logic in going beyond the one-year mark, doing 6 more months of giving you data to look at?
Yeah, I mean, I think if you look at the data, Councilmember Helgeson was accurate, that we did start with higher numbers, and I think that's because of the time of year. During the winter months, they were lower. We have had, I believe, at, again, the time of this data, we've had 2 additional charges in May as we start to see. My concern very bluntly is when the kids get out of school, which just happened, they have a lot more free time on their hand, they have a lot less structure, and we want to make sure, again, that we're keeping young men and women from perpetrating crimes, and just as equally important, we're not allowing young men and women to be victims of crime. Bad things happen late at night. That's just the way things go. It can happen certainly any time of day, but we see a lot of that activity later at night, and it's my opinion that continuing this curfew would, again, allow our officers to have another tool to address some of the things that they're seeing they may not otherwise be able to address.
Okay, thank you. Dr. Wilder?
Yes, I'd like to make a substitute motion to approve the request.
Okay, do you have a second on that? Second. Okay, do you want to speak to that?
No other comments.
All right, so substitute motion to approve. Any further discussion?
No, I support this. I think that we send the wrong message if at the beginning of the summer we quit the curfew, and I think it's really important we continue it.
Councilman Hudson?
Just something that you may want to consider, if you're concerned about the summer, you don't have to have it till December. You could have it for 2 or 3 months, the 3 months of the summer. June to September would be 3 months of the summer. And I would hope you would, I guess this is a substitute of a substitute, so it can't be another substitute, but you could amend it if you'd want it for just 3 months, since what I just heard, everybody said that you're concerned about the summer. If you're concerned about the summer, you have it then for 3 months, and then brings it back up after those 3 months.
Well, the other piece to that is it gives Chief more data, more months of data, so that he can get the full cycle that he had talked about. So.
Okay, so the substitute motion on the floor is to approve the extension of the curfew. So let's go ahead and vote on the substitute motion to approve.
Councilmember Dolan?
Yes.
Councilmember Helgeson?
No.
Councilmember Mischins?
No.
Councilmember Taylor?
Yes.
Councilmember Wilder?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Feraldi?
No.
Mayor Reed?
Yes.
The motion passes.
Okay.
So that makes it the main motion.
Yep, so we'll go back to the original motion to approve. Nope, so let's go ahead and vote on the original motion to approve.
Councilmember Dolan?
Yes.
Councilmember Helgeson?
No.
Councilmember Mischins?
No.
Councilmember Taylor?
Yes.
Councilmember Wilder?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Feraldi?
No.
Mayor Reed?
Yes.
The motion passes.
Yes, the meeting is adjourned. Our next regularly scheduled meeting will be held on June 11, 2024 at 4 p.m. in Council Chamber.